Thank you. Just want to make sure that everyone can hear me.
Yes,
Okay.
I hear you fine.
All right, great. All right, my name is Tracy Collins Sr., and I am the General Manager of the Whitehall. I am making this statement on behalf of Jeffrey Moeller, the President of the Whitehall, who is unable to be with you tonight due to a personal matter. Less than a year ago, the Traffic and Transportation Committee considered various proposals to modify Independence Avenue, including adding bike lanes, substantially narrowing the traffic lanes, and an ad hoc group that I and other community leaders led along with the boards of multiple apartment buildings abutting Independence Avenue mobilized to oppose the bike lanes and the narrowing of Independence Avenue, as well as several of the other proposals that would have dramatically impeded a vital traffic and an emergency vehicle artery in our community. Pedestrian safety and bike lanes are wonderful ideas, but this plan for Independence Avenue was ill-conceived. Independence Avenue is the main north-south traffic artery on the west side of Henry Hudson Parkway, and the only place that moving trucks, delivery trucks, emergency vehicles serving the many apartment buildings, as well as the schools and synagogues abutting Independence Avenue can load and unload. Just think about the gridlock that we experience on Independence Avenue when the schools start and end each day. And imagine what would happen if Independence Avenue was substantially narrower and that gridlock was expanded exponentially. Over 200 community members attended the Traffic and Transportation meeting on January 18, 2021, with approximately 90% opposing the bike lanes and most of the other proposed measures. At that meeting, a compromise was agreed to where the bike lanes and several of the other measures would be tabled indefinitely, and improved striping, channelization, delineators, and speed bumps would be approved. The agreed compromise was presented and approved by the Traffic and Transportation Committee on February 18, 2021, and was subsequently presented to and approved by this board. The proposal to rescind that resolution will reopen a compromise agreed to with the community and approved by this board. The community spoke out very vocally a year ago and will mobilize again if this board permits such an outrageous effort to revisit an agreed to compromise program. Thank you for your consideration. Jeffrey Moeller, President, Whitehall Tenants Corp.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next up is Ina Sobel, speaking on 6661 Broadway. Ina, are you on? Kira, do you...
I'm here. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
No, I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just outside. That's why it might be a little bit. Is there a way I can speak after the next person because I just logged in?
Sure. We can move to Alex Martinez. Is Alex on?
Hi, everyone. Yes. Thank you so much, Laura. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Martinez. I'm the Director of Adult Services at Kingsbridge Heights Community Center. And I'm here with Tamina Actor, who is the NYC Care Program Coordinator at BronxWorks. At least I think she's here joining me. And so we had asked to be a part of this today to share just a few updates about the COVID vaccine, which I think a lot of you might have already seen through other means, but we just wanted to make sure that we're sharing this information. And so the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine is now available and approved for children between the ages of 5 and 11. Booster vaccines are available for fully vaccinated people over the age of 18 and older. And booster shots are available for those who have received the second dose of Pfizer or Moderna at least 6 months ago, or one dose of the Johnson & Johnson at least 2 months ago. And so BronxWorks and Kingsbridge Heights Community Center have been doing a lot of outreach in the community, since the summertime. And so really we're here just to answer any questions, be a resource for all of you, and also asking us or asking you to invite us to any outreach opportunities or events in the community where we can continue to provide this information and any education for folks who still haven't decided whether or not they want to be vaccinated or are considering vaccinating their children. I'm available for any questions, but I'll also put my email in the chat box in case folks think of anything later on.
Do you have a flyer, Alice, about the program, hours, times?
Well, it's not.
We could post it on our social media. Any information, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay, sure. Should I send it to you?
The community board. Send it to the community board.
Beautiful. I can definitely follow up and share some flyers. But our team is available, you know, ongoing. And so we don't necessarily have flyers about upcoming outreach events, but we're more than happy to collaborate with all of you. If you have any, especially as the holiday season or the new year is coming, if you have anything that we could be invited to, just to get more face-to-face time with folks.
We will definitely do that.
Time.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you, Alex. Very important. Let's circle back. Ina Sobel, are you good?
Yes. Hi, I'm here. Yes. So I have a quick update. The new incoming mayor, Eric Adams, is having a fundraiser event tomorrow at the Harlem Cigar Room, which I was able to get on the guest list. So I'm going to be going there to speak to him regarding the shelter. From what I understand, that he is not a proponent of this type of housing. So if there's a way we can maybe do some kind of something that I can present to him, besides just speaking to him and giving him our opinion and the community board, and if I can get something official from the community board to present to him, that would be great.
Ina, our resolution is on our website.
Okay, so I'll just
our testimony is on our
give
website.
Him a link.
Feel free.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
Not at the moment. I'm still working with a friend of mine who's an architect to try to give an opinion as far as safety of constructing this type of building at that location. Hopefully I'll have it in the next couple of days. And that's it at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Ina. Thank you. My understanding from a week or so ago was that there's only 30% of the drawing available. You know, we haven't seen the building. We're not going to see the building until into 2022. It's at 30%. So it's going to be hard to evaluate anything. We haven't seen anything.
Well, if anything bigger than the existing building, it has to be bigger than what's there now, because it's going to house 130 men, and it is going to be a dormitory style building. So we can kind of know what the size of the building, if not in detail.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to be a preliminary opinion, you know, but still, I don't think it's going to be in favor of that type of construction. Okay.
So I thank you very much. And next is Sue Dodell, also speaking on 6661 Broadway. Sue?
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Sue Dodell. I'm a resident of North Riverdale. The contract for the homeless shelter has not been sent for registration to the controller. It won't be delivered until at the earliest next year, when Mayor-elect Adams will have the opportunity to consider it and Controller-elect Lander will have the opportunity to reject it. So I urge the members of the community board to use your knowledge of city law and procedure and your political savvy to convince Adams and Lander not to move forward with the contract. During the mayoral campaign, Adams stated that we have to get out of the shelter business and into the business of permanent housing. And he said that congregate shelters are no good. If we can't convince Adams and Lander, then we should consult a lawyer and consider suing the city. There are many reasons to oppose a congregate shelter. It's a model that's outmoded and ineffective. We should be providing supportive housing units where people who need them can live in dignity in rooms of their own, not with 6 to 8 others in a room. We should be building a permanent, affordable housing rather than perpetuating the homeless crisis by building a congregate shelter, which at best will provide only 27% of its clients with permanent housing. The $200 million for this 34-year contract will serve only to enrich the coffers of the developer and the contractor. The more shelters that are built, the more they're going to be filled up, because the city has created a cottage industry of shelter providers, some of which, including AACPI, have engaged in corrupt practices. If DHS has the need to house homeless men right now, we should use existing buildings. And so creating this shelter from the ground up is not the way to address today's problems. If we have the time to build something from scratch, let's build affordable housing. DHS hasn't responded adequately to the community board's written questions from several weeks ago, nor did it address the community's concerns at last night's town hall. DHS outlined a site selection process which involved AACPI and the developer proposing only this site to the city, a process which is misguided and invites corruption. The questions of nepotism at AACPI and the illegal actions of its CFO have not been addressed. Neither has the screening and rating process for this non-bid RFP. The location of the proposed site is wrong for many reasons. It's far from the subway, across from a park, has inadequate sewer and water service. It'll involve blasting of rock and damage to a retaining wall to build the building that will harm neighboring homes. And the site was purchased at a price far exceeding its market value. I have little doubt that placing 130 single men in a quiet residential neighborhood will hurt the community. A homeless single men shelter on Jerome Avenue resulted in neighborhood homes being vandalized, neighborhood stores being vandalized, and open drug use. When the men were moved to a hotel in Manhattan during the recent pandemic, crimes dramatically decreased. So I urge the members of the community board to do all in your power to prevent the homeless shelter from being built. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next speaker, I have John McCaffrey. John, are you on the line, on the call?
Thank you, Laura. And I'd also like to speak about the site at 262nd Street and Broadway. The building phrase "as of right" doesn't always mean it's a good idea to build a project. It just means it can be done. Architects dream it, engineers design it, contractors find a way to get it built. The variable always remains the same. At what cost? This is where we find ourselves with the proposed homeless warehouse at 262nd Street and Broadway. According to DHS's ethical experts and a naive junior senator, there will be no cost to the neighborhood. There is no safety issues, and the men being warehoused will cherish the affluent address away from their families and medical services. There's always a human cost with these ill-conceived rush projects. With regards to the building site itself, we know the NGO purchasing the property is willing to overpay market rate for a property of this type. They say there is no design, and Laura, you just mentioned that. But at the same time, they have a developer with an in-house contractor that is ready to go to build this project. At this stage of the process, they should have an environmental study and an engineering judgment done on the rock outcropping holding up the homes on Spencer Terrace. There is also an issue with the rock outcroppings that cut 262nd Street in half. Up to this point, the city would have cut that street if there wasn't an issue with the above street on Spencer Terrace. The lack of transparency with regards to the construction of this property should concern all. Mr. Murdler asked Ms. Drinkwater to identify the experts that were consulting on this project. Like many other questions that night, she couldn't or wouldn't answer his questions. Mr. Murdler had her number, and she just continued to evade whatever questions he put to her. There is always a cost, unless you're the city with unlimited funds and NGOs willing to take advantage of the situation. I hope this board will request the developer and their contractor appear in front of the Land Use Committee to address these issues before any shovel is put in the ground. Thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Last speaker, Herb Barrett. Herb? I heard him earlier.
Laura, he's muted. Herb, if you can hear us, press, is it *9 to unmute?
Isn't it *6?
*6
to unmute? *9 is raise hand.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's right.
*6.
Herb?
Oh, how do we unmute him?
You don't.
Oh.
He has to hit the microphone down in the left-hand corner. Unless somebody can.
Laura, Laura, the borough president is joining us right now, so maybe he can go before her.
I'm sorry. What did you say, Kira?
Oh, sorry. I said the borough president has just joined the meeting, so maybe he can go before her.
Sure. And maybe we can get him on afterwards.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
So wonderful to see you, Borough President Diaz.
I know very important business at hand. So, you know, to all of you, I won't take too long. I just wanted to get on, Madam Chair, I wanted to get on and to speak to everyone and say that my tenure is coming to an end, and it's been quite the ride. I'm proud of much of the work that we've been able to do around the Bronx when it comes to job development and job creation and housing and our green spaces. And I know that life in the Bronx is not perfect. I know that we've had a lot of pain because of COVID. There's a spike in crime. We all have had family members who have either been sick or know someone because of COVID. But you know what? I know that the work that you have all been doing over the years and that you'll continue to do with the incoming leadership, with the incoming borough president, with the city council members, of course, Eric Dinowitz, who I was at a swearing in last weekend. I know that the best is yet to come. You know, we are resilient. We are Bronxites. For me, I'm a Bronx boy through and through. I like to say that if the Bronx was a person, you're looking at him right now. And it's been the job of a lifetime. It's been the opportunity of a lifetime. And I know that many folks want to, you know, give accolades and everything, but that wouldn't happen. The things that we've been able to do would not have happened without the help of advocates and members of the community board, like each and every single one of you who don't get paid a nickel. You do it because you love your community. You do it because you love your community board and because you love the Bronx. And for that, I just wanted to say, thank you for your service. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your support. Thank you when you agree. Thank you when you criticize. Thank you for beating me up. Thank you for the good times and the bad times. But you know, I wish you all a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Feliz Año Nuevo. And I won't say goodbye. I'll say I'll see you all soon.
Borough President, this is bittersweet. You have always been a source of strength for this borough, a source of support for this board. And we have so much enjoyed working with you, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. This is bittersweet. We love you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. To all of you, I'll see you soon, as I said, and just keep up the good fight. Keep making the Bronx bigger and better and stronger than ever. God bless you all. And upward and onward.
Definitely.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have we been able to get Herb on, Kira?
It looks like he
was on earlier.
He has his hand up, in fact, so but he's still muted.
Herb is muted, but he's on the phone.
I was going to say, call his phone.
Herb, are you able to unmute yourself?
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Herb? First of all, Chair, I really appreciate the opportunity for this to say something to the board as a group. Those that don't know me, my name is Herb Barrett. My main community interest has been this Memorial Grove in Van Cortlandt Park. I've been battling for restoration starting in 2006, and it has been restored. The Parks Department has taken the reins and cleaning the place and taking care of, which I say thank you very much. I even stopped by the field office to say thank you in person. I have been doing a Veterans Day ceremony every year for the past 15 years. It's Sunday preceding Veterans Day. Maybe inconvenient to some, but that seems to be the best time to do it. And I will not be doing it any longer. I will pay attention to the Grove by replacing flags and just watching it in general and stopping in the field office to say thank you when it's then they do something that I recognize they did. And I once again want to say thank you to the board in general. Specifically, I don't want to mention names for names, but it was very, very surprising for you to hand me a certificate during that last Veterans Day memorial attendance, and I really appreciate it. I was, tell you the truth, I was somewhat embarrassed by it, but I thank you. I understand what you were trying to say, that you are, I guess, in other words, behind me in the Memorial Grove to keep it recognized, to keep it a place that people can go to just sit and be calm, appreciate the area, how it has become, and it is. I don't want to say anything more other than, in general, the whole bunch here. Thank you for your support over the years, and it's time for me to step aside and let someone else step in and take over. I thank you all.
Thank you, Herb. As the most stalwart advocate for Memorial Grove and Cortlandt Park and all our parks, you've been a community member of the Parks Committee for years and years and years. We appreciate you, and it was just an honor to be able to present that. So thank you, Herb. Thank you.
This is Sergio. I would just like to echo that, Madam Chair. Thank you so much, Herb, for everything he's done. And it's our full intention to continue it. And we've got meetings set up to do so, Herb. And I owe you a phone call.
We got this, Herb. We got this.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may,
yes.
As Sergio said, I just want to thank Herb for his many, many years of service. We are definitely going to continue the Veterans Day ceremony at the Memorial Grove. There are several of us who are determined to see it happen, and we look forward to seeing Herb there again next year.
Absolutely. Okay, so moving on our agenda. Report from the 50th Police Precinct. Is the captain here?
Laura, I'm sorry, before we move to the 50th Precinct, I believe our council member is on and he has to get to another meeting. Is it okay if Councilman Dinowitz presents?
Okay. Okay. Eric, Councilman.
Thank you, Kira. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Kira. Thank you, Laura. I'll try to be brief. I'll start with the thing that, I think is on everyone's mind is the shelter. As everyone here, I think, knows, there's the proposed single adult shelter. I've been to every meeting, and every single meeting, whether it's a community board meeting or the meetings that I've arranged with the Department of Homeless Services and other electeds, the community board members, and has been more and more frustration. And the frustration is the lack of honesty and communication. We were told the shelter was coming. I think when the letter came in September, we submitted questions in writing. We submitted more questions in writing. It took weeks and months. And if you were at the last land use meeting, you would know that the community board's questions got answered and sent 3 minutes before the meeting began. And my questions came in the next morning. So it's been a lot of lip service, a lot of pushing off. In the meantime, we've been, I have testified at the Mayor's Office of Contracts hearing against the $195 million proposal. We've been in contact with the Comptroller's Office to see the work we could do to pause the contract. And I've been very clear from the beginning, it is wrong to thrust a project onto a community without so much as basic information about the project. I believe, I think in contrast to other people who work for our city, but I believe in bringing all people to the table. So for example, this morning I was with the Yonkers, the city of Yonkers, their city council majority leader doing a site visit. Because it's right over the Yonkers border. I know there are people from Yonkers on this call tonight. So we're working with our partners to get all of the information possible and try to hold DHS accountable to say, if you want to work with the community, then prove it. But so far, they have not done it. And I know a lot of people on here and a lot of people who are not on this call have raised a lot of legitimate concerns. I hear you. I'm going to continue pushing. And whether you're a community member, small business owner, or a housing rights advocate who thinks that shoving 6 people in a room with no guarantee of any services to them, you know, whatever community you're from, I'm here, I hear you. Always continue to reach out to my office. But now that that's out of the way, I want to let y'all know my office is partnering with the Montford Community Center. We're doing a coat drive. We're doing this through December 20th. So if you have coats that you want to give away, just put them in a sealed bag and bring them to my office Monday through Friday from 9:30 to 5. That's till December 20th. Our next food giveaway for older adults at the Riverdale Neighborhood House will be on December 21st from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We've also started the conversations about having those food giveaways at the Amalgamated, and that's going to be starting in January. So food giveaways, again, at the Riverdale Neighborhood House on the 21st, and then starting in January in the Amalgamated. A lot of this information is available on my Facebook page, on my Twitter page, and of course in my e-newsletters. So cleanups continue. Thank you for those of you who are reaching out to my office about cleanups. I think you've all noticed the new garbage cans we've been able to get. I think you've all noticed the streets are getting cleaner in our neighborhoods. We have crews out there. A lot of those crews are directed based on your recommendations. So continue to please reach out to our office. As the weather gets colder, we have limited capacity for graffiti cleanup, but our crews do snow removal. So if that's an issue, please, again, call my office and we'll try to help you out. I will end with legislation. There's a couple of bills that I've sponsored. One bill that I co-sponsored was a bill that prohibits the sale of, you know, those covers that go on license plates that make it hard for like the scanners to see them. That's been an issue in our neighborhood all over the city. So this bill makes it illegal to sell those covers that block the license plate. There were some police reform bills that I sponsored. One was a bill that empowers the CCRB to initiate complaints. Before this bill was enacted, people had to bring the complaint to the CCRB. With the passage of this bill, they can initiate their own complaints. And the other police reform bill is, if you're a police officer that's been fired in a different jurisdiction, you can't work for the NYPD, right? If you're fired in Minnesota, if you're fired in upstate, you can't come work for the NYPD. The last bill I will tell you, I'm very proud of this one because it is the first bill that I've authored that has been passed by the city council. It passed last week, and the bill was it is a bill that rewrites the charter of our city to recognize that all of our service members, all of our veterans, including those that receive the less than honorable discharge status, are entitled to city services. If you're a veteran, typically you get federal benefits if you were honorably discharged. But our city, we recognize that regardless of your discharge status, you served a dignity and honor, and you get those city benefits. And just to put into context for you, some people, I think something like 13,000 people who identify as LGBTQ were discharged with other than honorable status during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. People throughout the history of our Army have been discharged with other than honorable discharge due to their skin color or pregnancy or from actions resulting from mental health needs. So this bill, again, recognizes in our city that we serve everyone regardless of discharge status, and of course entitles them to upgrade discharge status benefits, a lawyer to help them upgrade their discharge status. It also adds 2 members to the Veterans Advisory Board, and these 2 members are actually family members of service members, because we know that our veterans, our service members make sacrifices, so do their families. So this bill also changed the charter to recognize family sacrifices by making sure their voices are heard on the Veterans Advisory Board. I'll leave it there, but there's a ton more legislation. Maybe I'll send the board a little legislative update, because there's so much we're doing now and more bills that I'm proposing. I'm proposing a bill tomorrow at Tomorrow's Stated, which I will update you all on in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councilman.
Thank you.
Moving along, we have the report from the 50th Police Precinct. So, Kira, do we have the captain on the call or a representative?
Yes, the 50th Precinct is on the call.
Okay.
They're just muted. Let's see.
Captain Gervin?
No, there's Captain Gervin couldn't make it.
Okay.
So I'm going to represent the command. I'm Sergeant Vincent Caprino. I'm the 50th Precinct's Neighborhood Coordination Sergeant.
Oh, excellent. Welcome.
So thank you. Just a brief overview. I don't know the last time anybody has spoke with Captain Gervin regarding the crime in the 5-0. In terms of commands in the Bronx, the 5-0 is one of 3 commands that's experienced an overall decrease in crime for the year to date. But we are up in some areas, such as robbery is one of them, and we're also up in grand larcenies as well. So something with grand larcenies that we've been seeing is a lot of rims and tires that are being taken, as well as catalytic converters from the street, where we're trying to step up and deploy some of our specialized units to work a little bit later into the night to catch these people who are stealing these vehicle accessories. We're also seeing, for the year to date, we've been down in auto theft, but we've seen in the last 28-day period, we're up. We had 22 auto thefts in the 28-day period, which is quite a lot. And you know, we're the same thing with these specialized units who are working. We see a lot of Hondas being taken as well. And other things with grand larcenies is be aware of the scams. There's a lot of these phone scams, a lot of people claiming that they're from the IRS and they want you to buy X amount of dollars in these gift cards. And, you know, people are falling for these scams. They're buying $1,000 worth of these gift cards, giving it to these people claiming they're the IRS. The IRS is never going to ask you for a gift card. They're never going to contact you like that. So that's one of those scams that we see. A lot of it's also the Con Edison scams as well via the phone. If there's outlets to reach out to these, especially the Con Edison, they have a hotline to reach out to. I don't have the number with me offhand, but that's one of the resources. If you feel like it might be a scam, they could they'll help. They have their own unit that deals with it and deals with us. Other things of note, we've actually had a couple of illegal guns taken off the street recently. One of our police officers was able, during a vehicle checkpoint, actually found an illegal firearm in a vehicle after the vehicle was found to be unregistered and not insured. The vehicle was basically a ghost. They brought the vehicle back to take it in, to take possession of it, and they found an illegal firearm, and the person who was driving the vehicle was arrested for it. And our specialized units also helped out another precinct investigation where 2 gentlemen were brought into custody in possession of the firearms, and they were noted gang members. So some recent successes that we have. Overall, the 5-0 is doing, like I said, we're down only 1.2% overall crime during the year to date. However, that's we're only one of 3 commands. Most of the Bronx, unfortunately, has been inflicted with a crime wave. So we've We've been okay in terms of some of the more violent offenses. We are up in robbery. Some of those are domestic robberies, but especially this time of year, people unfortunately get desperate. If you're out there at our business districts, please be aware of your surroundings. We do our best to be out there and apprehend these people, but unfortunately these things do happen, especially during the holidays. People sometimes get desperate and they might want to take advantage of that. But other than that, I think we're doing relatively well with the crime. With the vehicle incidents that are happening in the northern Riverdale area, we are deploying our specialized units to make sure they deal with that, so we can try to catch these crews that are stealing these vehicle accessories and costing people quite some money to replace.
Well, thank you very, very much for that in-depth report. Are there any questions? Okay, we wish you a very safe year.
Thank you. Thank you.
And wonderful holiday. Thank you for joining.
Bob Bender has his hand up.
I'm sorry.
Bob?
Yeah, I do have my hand up. Thank you, Kira. Sergeant, you mentioned that the auto thefts seem to be in North Riverdale. Is that correct?
Some of them have been, but more sort of vehicle accessories that are being stolen, like the rims and tires, catalytic converters as well. Honda's also a big target for, believe it or not, airbags for theft, but we see that in the Riverdale area. And I think the Riverdale area is being targeted because it's a relatively more quiet part of the Bronx. You do have these people that will come from the rest of the city to go up there looking for vehicle accessories to take, especially from Hondas. Hondas are historically have always been very, very popular amongst thieves. Mm-hmm. But like I said, we are deploying our teams, our specialized teams, to work a little bit later into the night, up to probably about 4:30 in the morning now, to look for these people that are out there stealing rims and tires. There was one in Horace Mann, but we have very, very good surveillance video, and we have very, very good surveillance video that we're actually going to be able to work on. It's actually going to give us some investigative. It definitely will help us investigate these issues, and we actually think they could be responsible for a string of them. So hopefully that becomes fruitful.
And Sergeant, one other question: that the gun possession is that predominantly in a certain area?
Yeah, that's mostly to the southern end of the precinct. The two that we were talking about, one happened on 225th Street, so closer to like Bailey. They were both towards Riverdale. We don't really see that kind of like a gun crime per se in the Riverdale area. That's mostly towards the southern end of the precinct.
Thank you, Sergeant.
No problem.
Dan, I see your hand up.
Thanks, Laura. Hi, Sergeant. How late are your specialized crews working until now?
Well, currently we have the one team we had was working till about 2 in the morning.
So there's one team, and who authorizes the later hours? Is that at the command level, or do you guys need something at the command level?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have they been authorized already?
They were changed today.
They were changed today. Excellent. Thank you. And there's only one team, though, you said?
There's one public safety team. They are comprised of a sergeant and 6 police officers. So they'll have 3 cars deployed up to that area. And like I said, we're going to try our best. We're going to definitely be looking for these people.
Gotcha. And GLA, I think, continues to be our highest crime.
Right now, well, the year-to-date, believe it or not, robbery has been the biggest jump. For us in the command, we're up almost 30% to 27.8. In terms of the 28-day period, yes, GLA, 28-day period, it was 22 versus 6 last year. So at 22 this year as opposed to the 6 last year. They're getting craftier. It's not the old days where they're breaking windows, and getting in the car and hot wiring these cars. They're a little bit more sophisticated now. We see a lot of times where they're cloning the fobs of the vehicles. And they're able to actually clone the fobs of vehicles and steal these vehicles. And again, we see a lot of them are Hondas, Honda Accords, Honda Civic, Honda CR-V being some of our, predominantly stolen vehicles. It is tough to kind of to catch some of them. You have to catch them in the act. It is tough. But we also have license plate reader vehicles out there, hoping that if we can ping a stolen car, we can recover the car, hopefully arrest the people that are in the car if there's anybody. Yep.
And just one more question. You mentioned license plates. I see all over this district paper plates. Many of them look fake.
I can tell you that
also with vehicles that don't have, you know, any registration tags on the front whatsoever. Are you guys making progress with paper plates?
Yes, we were able to get in contact with a couple more tow companies. The tow company we were using, it seemed a lot was constantly filled. They were used by other commands, so it became hard to tow some of the vehicles. We do paper plate enforcement. My unit is specifically, as well as the public safety unit, we will go out there as well as traffic. We will, if the plate is fraudulent and the person knows that the plate was fake, they're arrested for possessing a forged instrument. We will arrest people for that. If they didn't know the plate was fake and you know, they have the vehicle, they have the plate affixed to their vehicle, we do take the vehicle into possession until they can get it properly registered.
Have we had many of those? Yeah, have we had many of those arrests?
We've had a couple, not last week. Last week didn't see as many, but the week prior, 20-day period, we have a few. We do have a few. We are going out there and trying to enforce them. Unfortunately, we've had a couple where we saw the paper plate and some of these guys do take off on us, and we try not to pursue them to get to high-speed pursuits because God forbid they lose control of the vehicle, they hit someone who's innocent. Now we're at fault. So we do try to you know, to gauge whether it's going to be worth it or not to get into this big pursuit with some of these cars. We see some of them, such as the Mercedes-Benzes, the BMWs, that they will take off. But we do try our very best to make arrests based off of these fake plates. And if we do see them on the street and it's not coming back and it's valid, you know, we are trying to take these vehicles off the street and tow them and you know, make sure these people get them properly registered. Because I know it's been a problem. It's been a problem not just for the Bronx, but for the rest of the city. We see some of these people doing nefarious things with paper plates. I mean, it's more than just evading tolls. They're committing serious crimes and they're in these vehicles. So New Jersey has changed their license plates. So they changed some of the particulars with the temporary plates. So now we actually can scan them. There's a QR code. We can scan them and actually see if they were real or not. Before, we actually had to call the New Jersey State Police, believe it or not. We have these great things. We have these work phones. It wouldn't even come up on the work phone, and they're just literally right over the border, and we weren't getting any information. We had to call the state police. But now they've made that change. So now we can actually scan them with the phone. We can scan them and see if they're legitimate or not.
Thank you, Sergeant.
No problem.
Thank you. One last question we have time for, and that's David Gelman. And I just want to say, this part, the protocol is only board members ask questions. So the last question, David.
Yes, thank you. Sergeant, you noted a large increase in the theft of rims off of cars. At this point in the technology, are you folks finding locking lug nuts and locking lug bolts to be effective deterrents?
Yes. If we can get, like, if you could lock the vehicle, if you could lock those rims and tires, it is effective because these guys work. It almost looks like a NASCAR team. Some of them are very, very good. So they'll go out, and they could put a vehicle on cinder blocks very, very quickly. But those locking mechanisms for the vehicle, for the rims and the tires on the vehicle itself, they are very effective. And we haven't seen anybody been able to, to circumvent those means to take those rims and tires. So right now, I think that's a great investment. But again, we don't, it's awful that people have to spend more money than they've already spent on the vehicle and the accessories itself, that they have to now protect the car even further. But we are, like I said, we are doing our best to get the people that are committing these crimes, because we think it's probably the same group of people that are continuing to do it.
For what it's worth, I've got them on my car, even though my car is garaged. They're actually fairly cheap, because you only need one per wheel. So I encourage people to get them if they park on the street.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lieutenant, and for joining. Okay, moving on the agenda is the chair's report. I will be brief. Please see the executive committee minutes for my report. I do have one announcement to make. Kira is getting married on Saturday, December 18th. And I want to, on behalf of all of us, Kira, congratulations. And we wish you the best. So
thank you so much. Thank you all very much. And for those who have known, thank you. Everyone's been super supportive. Thank you. And I will be taking a few days off starting tomorrow. And I'll come back to work next Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay. So
thank you.
I'm looking at the weather. Everything looks great. So
Oh, good. I haven't even looked. So
I know it's going to be wonderful. A little update on the shelter. This is where we are. November 16th was the Mayor's Office of Contract Services hearing. The board testified. I testified in opposition to the shelter along with 25 residents in asking MAS not to approve the $195 million contract for 34 years. The next step, the contract goes to the controller's office. The controller's office registers the contract once it's sent from MOX. Until that happens, the contract is not active and the not-for-profit, in this case, AAPCI, will not get paid. The controller has 30 days to register a contract. Now, as of today, my contact in the controller's office said that the contract has not been sent to the controller's office. Most likely, it will be deferred to the next administration. So that is an update on that. The other last thing, I have written to the Department of Homeless Services and our elected officials regarding the lack of transparency in this whole process. We were told that after the MOX hearing, we would be able to view that preliminary contract. The problem is, and I thanked Dan and Rosemary for going down to the World Trade Center to view this contract, and we have attempted to see it online, but the sections that we want to see are not there, or they're heavily redacted. So, when can we see the important sections like the budget, and et cetera, when the contract is final? So what is the point of that? So that is what we have complained about. Furthermore, we can't see AAPCI's winning request for proposal, which has a ton of information, or the environmental assessment statement, because the contract is not final. So at this stage also, they're exempt from FOIL, and it's a very frustrating situation, but we are endeavoring to find out what we can. I'd now like to ask the board for a vote to add a resolution to the agenda. I have prepared a motion, and I'm going to relinquish the chair temporarily to Bob Bender. Bob, okay? And yeah, and I'd like to vote on adding my resolution to the agenda because it's not coming from a committee. Is there anyone opposed to adding a resolution dealing with the Department of Investigation report? Okay, is there anyone abstaining? So we are in business. Okay, Kira, if you could put the resolution up. Thank you. This was sent to the board members in advance, and it deals with the report last month issued by the Department of Investigation. It is called DOI Report on Corruption, Vulnerabilities in the City's Oversight and Administration of Not-for-Profit Human Service Contracts. Big name, big issues, and very timely for us now as we've been looking into contracts and we've been looking into not-for-profits. Things are ringing a bell. Many reports are issued and they just collect dust on the shelf, but I think there's real merit in this report, and it has tremendous applicability to what is going on now in the city. So here we go. Whereas on November 10th, 2021, New York City's Department of Investigation released a timely report entitled DOI Report on Corruption Vulnerabilities in the City's Oversight and Administration of Not-for-Profit Human Service Contracts, in order to combat fraud, waste, and other abuses by not-for-profit agencies in contract with, and they deal with 5 agencies: the Department of Homeless Services, Department of Youth and Community Development, Department for the Aging, Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, Department of Social Services, and the Administration for Children's Services. Whereas the report states that in fiscal year 2020, the city spent more than $4 billion in contracts awarded to not-for-profits in order to provide vital services for its most vulnerable populations. Whereas over the past 7 years, the DOI has conducted dozens of investigations into corruption, waste, fraud, and other abuses, and pursued criminal charges against nonprofit executives and board members. Whereas DOI has provided in this report a clear blueprint for city government to increase oversight and combat corruption in 23 policy and procedure recommendations for reforms in such contract management areas as budgeting, invoicing, and auditing. Therefore, be it resolved that Bronx Community Board 8 calls on our new city council members, borough president, mayor, public advocate, and controller to advocate for, adopt, and enforce the Department of Investigation's anti-corruption measures, standardized procedures, and best practices in order to protect and enhance the public trust. Now, one of the things, there were many things in this 78-page report that I thought were very thoughtful. For example, the city does not have any guidance on or limits on salaries for executives of the not-for-profits. They have no limits on how much the city will pay. And so there are several recommendations around that. And not just pay directly, but there's all kinds of indirect ways through subcontracts and many ways to increase executive salaries. This has been an issue for us with AAPCI, but I mean, it's just there's something that's lacking, that's not there. The city is has these systems called, HHS Accelerator System and Passport that they recently adopted this contracting system. However, if you have a not-for-profit and they've been audited and they have been found fraudulent, that same non-for-profit can apply to another city agency and one sister agency is not talking to the next. And so they point out all these things that seem so, insane, that they don't share auditing reports, things like that. So I was impressed with it. And I thought, if this could be looked at, if there could be city council hearings, and there are certain things that are not being enforced that could be enforced, I just thought it would be something for our board to advocate for. And should this pass, send it to all the community boards in the city and see if they will also support advocating for these changes. Because if we reduce the theft, the fraud, the corruption, there will be more money for the other non-for-profits, and there'll be more money and resources. So I'm asking for the support. This report acknowledges that it is not good how long the city takes to pay not-for-profits. And we have community centers that depend on contracts, and it's unconscionable that they're not paid in a year. But they do say this report does not deal with that issue, but that needs to be addressed. It's not right. So now I'm welcome to any discussion on this motion.
Do we have any questions from any board members?
Yep.
Let me get to.
I have my hand up.
Okay, yeah, Mr.
Merlo. Madam Chair, I was remiss. My day job got in the way, so I didn't have a chance to comment earlier in the week on this resolution. I would like to add something to this resolution.
Sure.
The Bronx is incredibly fortunate in that it has as its district attorney a distinguished former judge of the Appellate Division, First Department, Darcel Clark. She knows what she's doing, and she does it well. My addition, I would propose, is to ask her to convene a special grand jury to investigate into this matter. And let me explain why. The Department of Investigations historically has been, and I know of no exception over the many years that I've been involved with city government, where they are primarily responsible for doing the mayor's bidding, good and bad. And so they may issue reports, but then they don't follow up and the like. That's the nature of that job. It is a mayoral agency. The district attorney grand juries have historically been a place where there's real action. It's a place where the district attorneys can either convene a grand jury just to inquire and then follow up with indictments as appropriate. That's how things have happened historically over the years. The most famous of those, of course, is the Seabury investigations and many others that followed from it. So therefore, I would like to recommend the addition of the following very brief resolution. Therefore, comma, be it resolved, comma, the Bronx Community Board 8 calls upon District Attorney Darcel Clark to convene a special grand jury to examine into these matters and to make appropriate recommendations.
Well, I certainly accept that.
And take appropriate action.
Good. Okay, we could add that as a be it resolved.
So you accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Definitely.
Do we have any other questions from other board members? Kira, I don't see any hands. Do you?
Okay. So I'm ready to call the question, Bob.
Well, I'm ready to call the question, Laura.
Okay.
So do we have anyone opposed to the resolution as amended?
No, there was.
Do we have anyone abstaining from the resolution as amended? Rosemary, you're abstaining? I see, Kira, I see 3 hands. Rob, are you taking, are you watching?
I'm looking, yes, I'm watching the vote.
Okay.
Wait, there are more hands. There are more hands.
I see 4 hands. I see 5 hands.
Okay. These are all abstentions.
6 hands. These are all abstentions, right?
Dan Paternak abstain. Camelia abstain. Steve Fruit.
Margaret Della and David Gilman.
5, 6.
And David Gilman abstain. And was Rosemary finally?
Yes.
Yes, Rosemary. Okay.
Bob, one point. I don't think we did a roll call.
Right. Oh my goodness! And that was on the.
Well, yeah. It was later down on the agenda, so I was waiting.
4, 5,
no, you're quite
6.
right.
You're right. You're right, because I did this as part of the chair's report.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Deborah. So Rob,
yep,
you do the roll call?
Yep. Okay. Sylvia Alexander.
Present.
Constance Barnes Watson.
Present.
Bob Bender. Present. Here. Kelly Buford. You saw her earlier. Kelly Buford.
Present.
Christopher Calhoun. Not yet. Joy Campbell Privatere. Sebastian Chittilapoli.
Present.
Courtney Justice Galvin. Courtney Justice Galvin. I thought I saw her. Lisa Dow.
Present.
Margaret Della.
Yes.
Paul Ellis.
Present.
Diamaris Escanio Bell. Present. I see you. Moses Esenia.
Present.
Robert Vanuzzi.
I'm sorry, present.
Okay. Nick Fazio.
Present.
Steve Fruit.
Present.
Dave Gelman.
Present.
Rosemary Ginty.
Present.
Julia Gomez. Marvin Goodman. Edward Green.
Present.
Present. Osvaldo Jimenez. Wait, no, okay. Myra is not here. Bob Kaplan.
Present.
Luis Lopez. Charles Merdler.
Yep.
Ted Morris.
Present.
Omar Murray.
Present.
Daniel Paternick.
Present.
Tracy Pardo. Karen Pesci. I saw her earlier, but Karen Pesci. Yeah. Rita Proctor Lowe. Proctor Lowe. I saw Rita earlier.
I saw it too.
Yeah. Rita.
Rita, unmute yourself.
Hello. I'm
okay,
sorry.
gotcha.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Julia, Julie Reyes, sorry.
Present.
Georgia Santiago. Ramdat Singh. Is that you, Ramdat?
Ramdat won't be joining the meeting.
Okay. Laura is here.
Here.
Camelia Teplas.
Present.
Gotcha. Deb Travis.
Present.
Steven Vasquez.
Present.
Sergio Villaverde.
Present, unaccounted for.
Marty Wolpoff.
Present.
Okay. Should I go back and Christopher Calhoun? Nope. Joy Campbell Privatere? Nope.
Christopher Calhoun, present.
Ah, got you. Gotcha. Thank you. Glad I went back. Osvaldo Jimenez. Luis Lopez. Tracy Pardo. Karen Pesci. Georgia Santiago. Ramdat's not coming, and that's that. Okay.
Karen is showing up.
Karen is showing up, but she's just not.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw her. So she's just not hearing.
Here.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. Thank you.
All right. So Rob, we definitely have a quorum, right?
Oh boy. Yeah, we do.
We have a quorum and the
So
motion
Rob,
passed.
I see Georgia here on the phone.
Okay.
So I just
let me just say, can you please convert your phone numbers to your real names, because it makes attendance easier and minutes easier. So if you can put your full name as your screen name, it makes it easier to figure out who's here and who's not here without even before the roll call.
Even for our guests, sometimes it's easier if you put your full name for attendance purposes. That would be great, just for our minutes. Thank you.
Okay, so one more time. So those opposed, we had 0 before, right?
0.
0 for opposed. And those abstaining?
With 6.
We had 6. Rob,
Margaret
please add me. I'm going to abstain as well.
Oh, okay.
I see Margaret Della, so we now have 8. Okay, and that means that the resolution is passed.
And that means that I'll take back the chair, maybe.
And I will yield the chair.
Okay,
Are we able to provide any comments on this?
Oh, sure.
I don't understand what the process is here, since it's not a resolution coming from a committee.
Any individual can put forth a motion. That's what
May I
did.
comment on this?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't see hands. I'm sorry. Chuck commented and then I didn't see any more hands. Margaret, sure, go ahead.
I just want to underscore that there are approximately 36,000 nonprofits in New York City alone, contributing $36 billion. I feel as though more regulation, obviously speaking from my professional background, is onerous. It leads good people to do bad things. It puts more pressure on nonprofit organizations. I think we have the tools that are in place. It's just a matter of whether the city agencies choose to use those tools. And it doesn't get to any of the problems that most nonprofits are complaining about and why those problems are leading to less services provided within the community. So I think we're all for ethics, we're all for accountability, we're all for lower corruption, but this is an ongoing distraction from what are some of the most palpable, most significant problems going on in service providers within the nonprofit field that does the work on behalf of the city. And I would urge the community board, since its mission is to be focused on the effective use, availability of services to the community board, to look more closely at what are some of the true costs that nonprofit organizations are struggling with. I would also ask us to be more diligent about some of the things that we sign on to. I don't feel as though this, obviously I have to recuse myself from voting on it, but I don't feel like this is an efficient or effective use of taxpayer dollars.
Thank you, Margaret. The hands that are up, anyone else wish to have a comment?
Yes, I would if I can.
I'm so sorry, Mr. McGuire. This segment is only for board members.
I'm sorry. I thought you called open. Tom.
Yeah, no, only in the gallery session. But thank you for joining. And you can always email the board.
Well,
thank you. But
is the gallery session upcoming?
The gallery session is over. And the rest of the meeting is for board members and the public observes. So thank you for joining. Are there any other board members that wish to make a comment?
Laura?
Marty.
Based on Margaret's last comment, I think she expressed an example of not an abstention, but present ineligible to vote.
Yes.
Because apart from our comments, there is a conflict in terms of our vested interest in nonprofits and et cetera. So I would suggest that the vote tally include Margaret as present and eligible to vote.
Yes, I picked up on that, and I'm glad that you reiterated. Definitely. Chuck, is your hand up from before?
Yes, no, it's now. May I make?
Okay.
I really found Ms. Held's comments right to the point and very, very persuasive, to me at least. I have one concern here. There's a tension. We have nowadays a whole bunch of nonprofits that are really not nonprofits. Nonprofit has become in many areas, and more so, as a vehicle to profit the founders and members. The genuine nonprofits, and they are in the majority, as Margaret pointed out, the genuine nonprofits are slurred and defamed and injured by the actions of a few. But somebody has got to finally start paying attention to the problem. And that's really, from my standpoint, all I'm interested in. because technically, I don't think there's anybody who has authority to look at them. And it seems to me we ought to. I'll give you an example. We heard it at land use the other day. We have a shelter applicant. That shelter applicant collects over $500,000. His brother collects another half. And his sister-in-law collects a third half. These kind of nepotistic events demean genuine nonprofits. And she's right, they are the majority. But somebody, somehow, somewhere, has got to start taking a look at the practice and separating out the wheat from the chaff. And I thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. You know, the other thing that reminded me of the situation we're dealing with 6661 is that in this report, they specify that they must have review of leases and the lease has to be reasonable. The city can't issue a blank check. And I quote that they should include requesting a market evaluation for any new lease going forward. I mean, any of these proposals will save money and prevent the city from being ripped off, taxpayers from being ripped off. The not-for-profits, our community organizations do an exceptional, extraordinary job under very difficult circumstances. And I understand that the new controller and the new mayor, they're having they're having hearings on trying to help move the payment along to those nonprofits and, you know, finding out the root causes of it. And they're meeting with the nonprofits, and that's the way to go. So I don't see it that we can't have reform in all directions so that the system will work for everybody. That's hopefully that we'll get there. So are there any other hands or comments before we move on? Okay, Margaret, your hand is up from before.
Yeah, I just want to point out that the report already indicates that nonprofits have been investigated, people have been brought to jail or cases filed or whatever it might be. So it's not like these issues are continuing to go under the radar. When there are issues that come up, people are held to account. So I think this is, you know, this is sort of like a pretty national approach, and, you know, and I don't think there's nearly any level of review of for-profit organizations that receive city dollars or state dollars or federal dollars to the extent that nonprofits are held to. So I think it's, you know, everyone is anti-corruption, but I would just urge the community board to review things that are, you know, palpable and what's affecting the community board.
Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. Okay, so seeing no further hands, where's my agenda? Okay, we'll move on to Dio and the treasurer's report. Dio.
Thank you, Laura. So we've allocated $7,544 budget so far, and we have 181,810 remaining for.
Dio, it's not coming in so well. I don't know if other people are having a hard time hearing. Let's hear.
Yeah.
A little bit better. It sounds like you're in a well, but maybe it's just me.
It's not you. It's there's lots of static and you're dropping out.
My phone.
In the meantime, Chuck, do you have a question?
Gio, would you like me to start the report until you figure out, is Gio still here?
She's trying to, technology, don't you love it? Dia? Trying by phone.
Laura, Assemblyman Dinowitz is on the line. Do you want to skip over to the Assemblyman first before we go back to Dio?
Okay, why don't we do that? Absolutely. Okay, Assemblyman Dinowitz.
Thank you, Kira. Thank you, Laura. I want to start by, I know he's not on the call anymore, but I just wanted to thank the Borough President, Ruben Diaz Jr. You know, we served together in government for, if you can believe this, for 25 years. You probably can believe it of me, but he was 23 when he started. He was in the Assembly for many years, and then he served almost 13 years as our Borough President. And he just got so much accomplished for the Bronx, and I think we all owe him a tremendous debt of gratitude. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge his amazing work over those 13 years. And I also wanted to thank Herb Barrett. I never missed one of his Veterans Day events. And even this year, when I might have had a little trouble getting there, I made sure I did, because he, a volunteer, just accomplished so much for our community. I wanted to talk a little bit about the proposed homeless shelter, but I'm not going to get into all the specific reasons why this proposal is bad, because I think most of us understand all that already. I've been to, I can't even count how many meetings and hearings, meetings with the commissioner and with that deputy commissioner. We know the reasons why it's bad. It's a bad model. The way they're doing it in the city is just not, it just doesn't work. They rely on a so-called not-for-profit to identify a site, then essentially make a deal with a developer, present a plan to the city, and then the city rubber stamps it. That's pretty much what happens. And the not-for-profit could be a great organization, or it could be an organization where, say, the executive director makes well in excess of $500,000 and has various relatives on the payroll or on the board. What I think is most objectionable, or one of the, well, there's so many objectionable things, but one of the most objectionable things is this lack of transparency. We deserve to know what's going on, and not only us, but in other communities as well. The process that the city uses is one where the only time we really find out what's actually going on is when it's a done deal, when it's too late to do something about it. And that's just not acceptable. That's not the way government is supposed to work. We need transparency. We need a better model. The councilman and I did reach out. We sent a letter to the controller's office listing, all the reasons why this should not happen. And, we've taken other steps. But the fact is, this is a tough issue to resolve. But I want to say that our community has stepped up. There have been several meetings. In some cases, hundreds of people have shown up to the meetings. And I think it's a testament to the people in our community, people who care. I've gotten probably close to 300 or more, at least 300 emails, phone calls on the issue of 6661 Broadway. And virtually all of them were opposed. There were like some people who supported it in the single digits, but interestingly and not surprisingly, with maybe one or two exceptions, the people who supported it, few that they were, didn't live near the shelter. They lived in Spike and Dival, they lived in other parts of Riverdale, maybe other parts of the Bronx. But the people who are actually there understand what the problems are. And I also have to mention, without getting too specific, that there was, I guess, a document or information that was disseminated yesterday, and not by me. And it suggested that the people who opposed the shelter, maybe they believe in segregation, maybe, it implied that there were racial motives. It suggested that people who are worried about property values are actually the ones who cause the diminution of property values when a development like this takes place. It doesn't do our community any good for anybody to be divisive, to be accusatory. I think, and I've heard all the people testifying at all the meetings of the Land Use Committee and of the Health Committee and so on, and I think people have been very respectful. People have not said things they shouldn't be saying. And the people who did testify, this was a very diverse group of people, not the stereotypical, rich white people that people try to attribute to Riverdale. It was a diverse group of people who care, people who may have invested their life savings in a house or in a co-op, people who rent, but people who are concerned about their neighborhood. And I just want to applaud the people in the community because they did step up and they are continuing to do so. And I'll leave it at that. I did also want to say that I think we're all aware, the governor and the mayor have issued various mandates regarding COVID. The COVID hospitalizations in the state of New York has more than doubled in the past month. Not so much in New York City. Why? Because most of the people in New York City have the good sense to get vaccinated, but the hospitalizations in New York State has more than doubled. But even with the vaccinations, the positivity rate in the Bronx has more than tripled in the past month. I look at the data every single day and the numbers are going up. The good news is that because most people here are vaccinated, not so many people are getting sick, being hospitalized, and thankfully not dying. I think many of you are aware that a couple of weeks ago, a group of anti-vaxxers demonstrated in front of my office on a Sunday, some of them carrying signs with Holocaust imagery, with swastikas, with yellow stars of David, things like that. Not all of them, but some of them. And this past Sunday, 2 days ago, another group of about 50 or 60 people decided to visit me at home and demonstrated outside my apartment building on Henry Hudson Parkway and was screaming for about 2 hours. Again, some of them had those same type of imagery. I'm not saying that all the people involved are anti-Semites, because I'm sure they're not. I can use other words to characterize most of them, but here's the bottom line. The people who are dying of COVID, in almost all cases, with few exceptions, are not vaccinated. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out what the smart and sensible thing to do is. Yet there are a lot of people who refuse to get vaccinated. I hope none of those people are on this call, because if you refuse to get vaccinated because you want to control your body and you don't want government telling you what to do, well, that's fine if you want to control your body. But when you go out of your house, you're possibly exposing other people, possibly killing people in some cases. And that sounds dramatic, but that's the reality. So I think people should be very cognizant of what's going on with this extremist fanatical opposition by some people. I don't really have a problem with people demonstrating in front of my office. Not so keen on it in front of my house because I have neighbors, but some people have no boundaries. But I do think that we're in a climate where many people feel that anything goes, that hatred, that disgusting phone messages and tweets and Facebooks and Instagram messages are okay. That's what we're living in right now. But to me, the most important thing is that people get vaccinated. I'm going to say nothing more on that because it's you have a lot of stuff to do. But I also wanted to say a happy holiday to everybody. Some of you have already celebrated the holiday. Some of you are about to. I'm looking forward to a much better year in 2022. And I thank you all on the board because I know the work you put in is very time consuming. I mean, think about the meeting. We're an hour and a half into the meeting and you haven't had a single committee report yet. Very time consuming, but your work is appreciated. I know I appreciate it. And, just please keep doing it. So thank you, Laura, for giving me a few minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. I think Dio, yes. Yes, we could hear you, Dio. Very good.
Great. Sorry about that.
Okay. No. So we have the budget back up.
Yes.
And
Okay.
you're on.
So thank you. So we've allocated 87,544 from our total budget so far, and we have 181,810 remaining for fiscal year 2022. Following that, following table 1 is the table summarizing our progress on the OTPS budget. Currently, we've allocated 7,931 and have 27,089 remaining of our other than personal services budget. There are budget modifications this month, and they are in addendum A, which I will go over at the end of the report. So next up is the table 1.3, which is our purchase orders and accounts payable update, showing that we hold 5,693 in encumbered funds. And finally, our rent and energy budget that's maintained separately by OMB, but it's there for your reference. And we've allocated 19,044 from that and have 48,128 remaining. So after that is addendum A, and that's our budget modification. So proposing moving $4,034 out of the 499 holding code into 3 areas, which Kira can go into detail about why we need to move some money around. Kira?
Yes, sorry, I was muted. Sure, thanks, Dio. So it's typical for the board halfway through the fiscal year to do a budget modification. You know, now that staff is back in the office, we've been needing to purchase supplies that we hadn't had to really purchase for about a year. So that's why we're asking for some more money in supplies and materials. We originally allocated $1,000. That's obviously not enough to get us through the year. And advertising is just going to be clearing up a previous balance we owed regarding a job announcement or a job ad. And then maintenance and repairs. A few months ago, our air conditioner broke, so we had to have an HVAC company come in and repair it. So that that's what that repair line is for.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions? Okay, then we'll move on to this.
Here is the resolution.
Okay, we're not seeing it here.
Oh, I see it.
We don't have
you
the
see it?
No, no.
It's right here.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm looking at the bottom, not at the top. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So do you want me to just read it?
Sure.
Okay, so whereas to support the work of the board office, a budget modification for FY22 has been prepared and is attached to the December treasurer's report. It's also the modifications there for your reference. Be it resolved, Community Board 8 approves the budget modification.
Okay.
I do see Chuck Merdler's hand is up. Chuck, do you have a question about this?
No, I apologize. It's from before.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, so if there anyone, if there's no discussion, is there anyone opposed to the budget mod? Raise your hand. Let's do this here. Is there, I don't see any. Is there anyone abstaining? Please raise your hand. It is deemed approved unanimously. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Can I just get one more minute?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so just wanted to announce that this will be my last treasurer's report. Some of you may or may not know, you probably might not because you only ever see me from the shoulders up, but Eric and I are expecting, so in February. And due to that, I will be stepping back from my duties as treasurer. This is not my, I'll be sending a resignation in the near future, but I wanted to take a moment to thank you all for electing me to this position and encouraging me to get out of my comfort zone. Treasurer was not something that I thought I would be able to do, but I did. And I really, I've loved working with the officers, and I'll continue to be on the board. I will just be a regular board member, but yeah, just wanted to thank you all.
Well, I can't.
Good luck. Good luck.
You see, this is the thing with Zoom. Here she's just about ready to deliver, and we don't know. This is really special for us. Who knows?
Who's Zoom bombing you in the background there?
There's Eric.
Congratulations. Eric
Congratulations,
and Dio
both.
met on the board. And so this is very, very special. We watched them, date and get married, and this is wonderful. And I'm starting to think that when it comes to Treasury pregnancy, this might be a thing.
Yeah.
So, Roz and now Dio, we are very, very pleased. And I just can't thank you enough for stepping up, Dio. And it's just been fantastic working together. And I'm so glad that you're able to stay on the board. And I'm glad also that you're cutting back and, going into the next mode. So I just, I applaud you for the great job that you have done. So thank you. With that, we'll turn to District Manager's report. Kira.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm going to, I can't start my video. Oh, I'm going to just refer you all to my executive committee report due to timing. Like the assembly member said, it's already 8:30 and we haven't even started committee reports yet. But I just, congratulations to Dio. It's been a pleasure working with you. And until we have a new treasurer, I'm happy to put together the treasurer's report and report on the budget each month or for next month. And again, thank you all for your well wishes for my good news. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on now to the committee reports. Economic Development, Nick.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Happy holidays. Dio, congratulations. This is very exciting. Raising a child is kind of like community work, and that no matter how much you do, there's always more you could be doing. But it is extremely fulfilling. So congratulations to you and Eric. Our last meeting was on December 9th. I will refer you all to our minutes once they're distributed. The small business report was provided by Katie Mayer and Heather Kim of Early Bird Cafe on Moshulu Avenue. We welcomed Randy Norfleet from the Entrepreneurs Assistance Center, and this is a new initiative that's a partnership between the Empire State Development Corporation and the Business Outreach Center, BACnet, to provide high quality intensive training. So we're going to be sending flyers and information out about this program, and we're very excited about it. We think it could be very impactful for our merchants and particularly our startup entrepreneurs. A couple of quick announcements. You're all aware of the new mask mandates that went into effect yesterday and the citywide vaccine regulations for private sector employees that will go into effect on December 27th. That will impact 184,000 private sector businesses, and that's assuming there aren't legal challenges, but you can go to nyc.gov for more information and please get that information out to the businesses. There was an email sent out by SBS today that we're going to circulate regarding all the bullets of the new regulations. On another topic, number one, Councilmember Dinowitz mentioned the new trash cans that I mentioned in the past, and they are definitely appreciated. Councilmember Keith Powers introduced legislation to reinstate the new propane heaters, which were banned by the mayor recently. We will watch those developments closely and do our best to communicate with our businesses that are understandably confused by the fluidity and changing regulations and guidance. On another good note, however, Representative Nadler introduced a bill to deliver additional flexibility to the payroll protection program recipients. I think it's the low revenue recipient PPP Relief Act or something like that. But once we get more details, and assuming that the legislation passes, that we hope it does, we'll be getting those out to our merchants as well. In November, in case you missed it, CPC voted to approve the DCP DOT proposed tax changes for the permanent open restaurant program. That program is still in the concept phase, and DCP and DOT are asking for input. So you can go to NYC Engage. There are multiple meetings, roundtables, virtual discussions, and December and January, and the framework is due sometime in March, full implementation in late 2022. So contact us if you want to participate in that discussion. On Thursday, November 18th, we had a meeting with the merchants impacted by the fire on Bailey Avenue, SBS, EDC, KRVC, local officials, representatives. Tanya and I both attended. We discussed the recovery process for the businesses that sustained damage due to the fire on November 1st. And big thank you to Kira and Tanya, Tracy from KRVC for getting all of the stakeholders in one room. It's another great job by our DM and the staff. The press release from the DFS Commissioner Harris regarding the BDD designation in Van Cortlandt Village is on the New York State website. Please take a look. This is no small accomplishment, and many individuals on this board played a role in that, and it was an indispensable role that this board played. So if you have a moment, check it out. If you can't find the link, let us know. And speaking of underbanked communities, we have not given up on Knowles Crescent. On December 2nd, Chair Spalter and I met with DFS official Yuli Franklin, and we did a walking tour of Knowles Crescent. We met with merchants. We provided some demographic information, and they are looking into the matter internally. So we're not done fighting for a financial institution in Knowles Crescent. A couple of just things that are on the radar that the community and the board should be aware of. Number one is the implementation of the MRTA. That's the Marijuana Regulation and Tax Act. Crane's Business Forum will be having an information session on the MRTA on December 15th. Full commercialization of recreational marijuana is expected to be up and running by the end of 2022. You can go to the New York State Office of Cannabis Management, cannabis.ny.gov, for more information and to read the minutes from the inaugural meetings that were in October and November, respectively, of the newly formed Cannabis Control Board. Number two, another interesting development that is that people should be aware of is that there is a new business model that has the potential to impact our mom and pop stores and our bodegas. And that is the 15-minute grocery delivery services that have proliferated throughout Manhattan and are sure to arrive here in our community if they haven't already. The model consists of the occupation of ghost storefronts, whereby the businesses that are doing the deliveries warehouse and stage in shuttered businesses or shuttered storefronts. They're renting them, they're leasing them, but they're not open to the public. And this could create a tremendous market disturbance for sort of our neighborhood commercial ecosystems. And it also has implications for the usage of e-bikes and scooters and things like that. So I'm not sure where that's going, but something to keep an eye on. So as you can tell, there's never a shortage of things to report on. I could go on about some of the macroeconomic implications for economic development and how they're impacting our board, or the businesses within our district, I should say. But suffice it to say that things are always changing. We could definitely use people's input. Our next meeting is in January 28th. So please join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nick. Sylvia, Education, Libraries, and Cultural Affairs, you're on.
So I do have a question for Nick.
I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Yeah.
Dan.
Hey, Dan. Nick, I'm sorry, what was the designation you said that Van Cortlandt Village had?
Banking Development District, BDD.
Gotcha, and they were just designated that?
The press release came out November 10th.
Gotcha. Do you know how far that goes from?
So DFS actually has a map, but it borders, by my recollection, because we worked on it for most of the summer with the borough president's office, it goes from the Bailey Avenue up and around the reservoir. So it circumnavigates the reservoir, goes back down to the north side of Kingsbridge Road, which is in our district. Sedgwick Avenue and back around to Van Cortlandt. So of course it incorporates Ridgewood Savings, who was the private partner in that application.
Gotcha.
Deb, do I see your hands up?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add to what Nick was saying. The delivery service, we do have one actually that I'm aware of in our district, which is GoPuff, is one of these their warehouse based delivery service.
Ah, okay.
They just sent out flyers within the last month.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions.
Thank you, Deb.
And again, thank you, Nick. Sylvia, Education, Libraries, and Cultural Affairs.
I'm very excited about our next meeting, which will be on December 22nd. The date changed because I'm having the SCA, School Construction Authority, as a guest do a presentation, which was done at Land Use. If you did not join in Land Use, you can join our meeting to see what they propose. There is a developer who is including a 696 seat school on the visitation site where the visitation church was. And I welcome all of you to join.
Thank you. Any questions for Sylvia?
Yeah, may I just make a point?
Sure.
Sylvia's invitation is really important. This came to us solely as a zoning issue, and it turned out as it started to develop that what you have here is a school being tucked essentially in the middle of a residential complex where you can have all sorts of parking problems, all sorts of questions, and they're the kinds of things that nobody bothered to tell the education committee about. So that those of you who have a concern over education and concerns of education in this community, please do attend Sylvia's session. That's why Land Use recommended it be sent over to education. I thank you.
Thank you. Dan, your hand is up.
Hey, Laura, I was unable to make the SCA presentation as part of Land Use because I had another commitment to go to. But two things. One, we discussed last night at LRE the timing of this issue and that they needed a comment, if any, by January 3rd, and that there would not be another board meeting before that date. And we spoke to Marty about this. I don't know if this is the time to do it or if later, during LRE perhaps, that a resolution be made that the Education Committee be able to speak for the board on this topic. So that way we don't miss the deadline of January 3rd to actually say something. The second point is, I did look at that SCA presentation, which I don't know what word to use, but there was no information on it. They didn't even show the part of the lot which was going to be developed for the school, nor did they give any of the statistics of the school needs, even though they had a header for it. Is it possible that our board office actually get those numbers before the Education Committee meeting so that way we can review it?
Dan, they claimed they didn't have the information even.
For the needs of the schools? They should have that.
Nope, they claim
the district needs. They don't have the numbers of the needs for the schools, the overcrowding numbers.
Refining it. That's why we sent it over there.
No, they provided numbers with respect to overcrowding in the district and the need for seats.
Yeah,
but they have not given any other information, and they claim they do not know because it's the Board of Ed, not them, who decides what the catchment area will be. So which students will attend, who will be, which current schools will have less students attending them as a result, but there's obviously a need for student seats.
Yeah.
What happened with the...
Okay, so the
could I say something?
Sure.
Could I just say something before it disappears? Dan, I did investigate the possibility of representing, or the education committee representing the whole board. And I was told that when land use did that, it was when it was a committee of the whole. I'm not, and therefore I can't do that. So I am going to have my meeting. Hopefully there will be a resolution that will come out of that, and then I'll send it in with a cover letter saying that it was from the committee because the board wasn't meeting, conveniently to pass it. So I just wanted to clear that up.
So Marty, is that what we came back with? You're muted.
I got that from the chair.
Well, I spoke to
Marty. The question
Marty.
Before us is whether or not, at the end of Sylvia's meeting, will we be able to talk to the SCS, SCA, with any voice? Not that they'll listen anyway, but this is a chance for the board to be heard. And so the Education Committee ought to be authorized to speak on behalf of the board, and everyone who wishes to attend her meeting ought to and participate.
Yeah.
So moved.
Yes.
Okay.
Seconded.
So is there anyone opposed to that? I mean, clearly the cover letter will state that this is a resolution coming from the Education Committee. The full board did not take a vote because of the timing issues. But you will represent, if Marty approves that, then that's fine.
Well, I think we've got a motion on the floor, Laura.
Yes, and is there anyone opposed to that? Is there anyone abstaining?
I'm still not, Laura, I'm sorry, I'm still not entirely clear on exactly what the resolution is on the floor.
The resolution is to authorize the Education Committee to speak for the board on this issue.
They're going to send in an opinion on the matter.
So are they speaking as the Education Committee, or are they speaking as the representatives of Community Board 8? That's my question.
Let me repeat what I said. It's the resolution authorizing the Education Committee to speak for the board. That is exactly what land use did previously. We use those words, Bob.
Okay, I'm clear now.
Are there any other?
Well, Marty, just to clarify, who will be able to vote and speak at the meeting?
I would imagine.
Do we need language for that?
Sylvia runs the meeting, but it strikes me that if this is going to be on behalf of the board and imitating what Chuck had in terms of committee of the whole, every board member who wishes to participate should be heard.
Okay, so the model is when land use was committee of the whole. And are there any other questions? Bob Finuzzi.
Are you, first of all, it's not an analogy anymore, obviously. Number two, you have to make a motion to amend the agenda for a motion from the floor.
So moved.
Seconded.
Is there anyone opposed to amending the agenda?
I am.
To include that. Okay, is there anyone, so Bob, you're, anyone else opposed to amending the agenda? Chuck, is your hand up from before?
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone abstaining? Is there anyone abstaining? I don't see any hands, so it is deemed passed and you will represent the board.
No, Laura. We amended the agenda.
No.
We have to make the motion now to discuss and vote.
Sorry, I have to take another sip of coffee. I just had to take another sip of coffee. Okay, we put it on the agenda. We amended the agenda. And where are we at this stage?
So we have to vote on the motion.
We don't have a motion stated.
I move.
If someone would please articulate the motion.
If you could repeat the motion.
I would be happy to.
Please.
Moved that the Education Committee can, on the matter of the proposed school construction authority building on the visitation site, speak for and on behalf of the board.
Okay. Is there anyone opposed?
Is there a second to Chuck's motion?
Well, there's a second, but just to add the part that Marty was discussing before, that any other board members who wish to attend shall be heard,
Good
right?
point. Good catch, yes.
Right, Marty?
Okay.
That was it, and shall
Absolutely,
be able to,
yes.
and shall be able to vote as, are we allowing them to vote as well as part of this resolution, Marty?
No, that was in question still. That last part.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm asking Marty.
Again, Sylvia runs the meeting, but it strikes me if it's on behalf of the board, then anyone who is a member of the board should have a chance to express themselves and vote.
Thank you. And I would second that, Chuck.
Non-committee members are going to vote at a committee? I think you're getting.
I think what we're really doing, Bob Fanuzzi, is
I
authorizing
think you're getting
Education
into
Committee.
some strange territory here that I've never heard before.
I agree. I have no problem with
Non-committee
express
members
themselves.
voting within a. I understand the first part. I don't understand that non-committee members are deputized as voters in a for a committee they don't belong to.
I think what we're doing is authorizing the Education Committee to act as a committee of the whole for this particular meeting.
They are not a committee of the whole. They can speak.
We are
They're not a committee
authorizing.
of the whole.
We're authorizing them to take that role. Why
It's
are
a
we
change in
doing
the
this?
committee composition. You
So
don't want to do that.
what?
I think you're fine with the first. I've never heard of people having a vote in a committee
There
that
are
don't belong to
1,000
the
things
committee.
we've never heard of before, and that in this day and age are happening. Why are we doing this?
Let's not improvise. There's enough improvising going on.
Well, you know what?
Here.
We have a question on the floor. I'm calling the question. Is there anyone opposed to Education Committee serving as a committee of the whole, allowing all board members to have a vote on that particular issue? Anyone opposed, please raise your hand.
I'm opposed.
Okay, so we have Rosemary, David Gelman, Deb Travis, Bob Bender, Paul Ellis, Julie Reyes,
Margaret Della.
Okay. We have eight opposed. Are there any abstentions?
Okay, let's lower your hand.
Let's lower
if
your
you-
hands.
Okay, I see Lisa and Sergio and Constance Barnes.
Okay, so
I'm trying to raise my hand as an abstention too, Laura. Sorry.
okay, and Nick. I do believe it passes. I do believe it passes, correct? Rob?
Sorry, muted. Yes.
Yes. Okay. And Sylvia, what's the date again?
December 22nd at 7:30 on Zoom.
Okay, very good. Encourage everybody to go. Sylvia, do you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay, thank you. Environment and sanitation, Bob Fanuzzi.
I had hoped to appear before you with news about New York City's investment in flood mitigation and stormwater management measures that would benefit our district. I just would like to impress upon you the danger that was brought to our community by Hurricane Ida, and also the fact that according to the city's own estimation, these storms are the new normal. And I am very sad to report that I have not been able to discover from two meetings, September and November, the latter which had the top people from the Mayor's Office of Climate Resiliency and two representatives of DEP. Short of daylighting, which you know is a 10-year project out, there are no mitigation measures proposed, new no new measures proposed as a result of our region's vulnerability. The city is adopting a citywide process. And once again, this district is, again, despite daylighting and the prominence it's received, is not receiving any extra resources. So we are going to have to do this the community way. And I'm going to ask for your help, specifically Housing Committee, the Economic Development Committee, the Traffic and Transportation Committee. I will come to your meetings. I will stress and impress upon all your attendees the need to mark down flooding conditions, report flooding conditions, not on 311 the phone, 311 the website. We are given a fantastic demonstration by DEP of how to map our flooding vulnerability. Now, the businesses on Broadway, flooding is an old story. Upper Broadway is now a speedway of water because of excessive development. I want to call attention to the flooding hazard proposed by this insane new homeless development over 261st Street and Broadway. Everywhere we see there is increased vulnerability. Broadway is incredibly vulnerable right now. And what we need is to get flood reports. According to the City of New York, we rank very low in flood vulnerability. I want you to remember those pictures of the Deegan and all the flooding in your area. And just see that according to the City of New York, we are not high flood risk. And you know why? Because people don't call in. So right now, the only way that people will actually recognize our need is for residents to make that call. It's flood report on 311 the website, and there's also sewer backup. So this needs to be a community effort to make sure we get the resources and the attention we deserve. Otherwise, we're not going to get it. And for the record, we will have more incidents like Ida. So thank you for your time in that. I really need to be clear. Our committee is going to be adopting flood mitigation and stormwater management as a budgeting framework, planning framework, and encourage all other committees to look, including T&T and other committees, to look for ways that their budget priorities coming up for 2023 can address our increased vulnerability to storms. We have a huge meeting tomorrow. We deal in planetary scale and geologic time, and I'm talking about the now 30 years it's taken for the Harlem River Greenway and the Putnam Trail to get visibility. We still don't have a deal with CSX, but we have a commitment for daylighting and for a partnership with Parks to build an extension of the Putnam Trail along the CSX property and to provide daylighting and relief from flooding along that. So there's a joint committee of Parks Committee. I don't think that Ramdad is here, but it is being held tomorrow. And there's high-ranking people from both DEP and the Parks Department to present on the progress of that. It took a lot of work, and we're very happy to get this review. It's been a couple of years. They owe us, and I urge everyone with interest in flooding, recreation, and the transformation of our Broadway corridor to come out tomorrow. One last thing is that due to the efforts of our committee and especially Councilman Dinowitz, this week saw the resumption of curbside composting pickups. So thanks for all those people who signed up, and we are back in business in Community District 8. I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Bob? Looking forward to hearing the proposals tomorrow night. Thank you, Bob. We'll move on to health, hospitals, and social services. Omar.
Hi, good evening, everyone. You hear me clear, Laura?
Yeah.
Laura, you hear me?
I can hear you. You're good.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And My signal is going in and out. Hi, Laura. Good evening. First and foremost, I want to thank Laura, and I thank you so much, you, Chuck, Rosemary, and Dan, for the excellent work you're doing to get out as much information about this homeless shelter. I also want to thank our assemblymen and our councilmen for the job that they're doing, also for the community. So we had a meeting in November, and the Department of Health came to speak about the new variant. As you know, the numbers are going up, and the city continues to promote more vaccines, especially for those who received 2 vaccinations already. You are encouraged to go and get your booster shot. The governor has implemented mask mandates from yesterday, and those who fail to abide by it will face up to $1,000 fine. There is no meeting for December, and come January 12, we will have our January meeting, and we will be speaking about organ donation, and also we will be having representatives from the Department of Health to speak about the current state of COVID-19 vaccinations and testing. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Moving on, housing, Ted.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start out by thanking Chair Lady Spalter for her kindness, her understanding, and her patience with me. This has been a particularly tough season, having our various challenges and suffering some very personal losses. But thanks to Chair Lady Spalter, she has kept me encouraged. She has stuck with me and the Housing Board. And I want to say personally thank you for that. Also, thank you to my members who also have been just as understanding. Just to keep it brief, our meeting is coming up on December the 27th, where we're going to be addressing Tony Edwards, hopefully addressing Tony Edwards, his re-election bid. The vote is actually, I believe, on tomorrow for his return as the Tenant Association president. Back in November, we had a celebration for new solar lighting at the Marble Hill Community Garden in conjunction with the OSS project, which is the Outer Seed Shadow Project, along with Brooklyn Solar Works and Manhattan College that has tended the garden, where they installed this new piece of equipment back in November. We'll also be discussing with Mr. Edwards new initiatives for the new year in conjunction with Marble Hill Management. I will also be discussing with Ms. Paula Fry, who is the Marble Hill Management, some concerns from tenants regarding the current heat situation here in Marble Hill, as well as some safety concerns, along with her in conjunction with the 50th Precinct and the NCOs. And that's what we have for this evening.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, and welcome back. Okay, moving on, Chuck, and land use.
Oh, Laura, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Also, we'll also be working along with Bob Fanuzzi in regards to the flooding issue and the CSO issues here in the Marble Hill area, because the flood that we witnessed on the Deegan was very concerning. As you know, this corridor, 230th Street, leading down to Broadway, is a very high population area, and it was a very big problem with that flooding there on the Deegan. So we will definitely work in conjunction with Bob and his committee in regards to flooding issues in Marble Hill area. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect.
Laura, before I start, I do have a comment for Ted. Ted, while the de Blasio administration is exiting in a few days, there is still some momentum, generally triggered by developers, to have what they call infill within some of the housing authority projects in the city of New York. Namely, where you have grass, let's build a building. It doesn't have to have the same limitations as the housing authority one, and it'll raise money that'll help defray the costs. In addition, they are doing a heck of a lot of stuff of contracting out in terms of maintenance and in terms of other things, pursuant to what you will hear about in a moment in connection with land use. You'll hear it here now. They're doing these open-ended RFPs. So an RFP gets put out in the year 2000, and they'll fill it in 2015, that kind of stuff. I think you have to continue to be very watchful for the benefit of the people in the projects. They have so far stayed away from the Bronx because as a member of the New York City Housing Development Corporation, I've made it clear that I will exercise the governor's veto and veto it. And I will continue to do that. But I will tell you that this is just wrong. This tendency is going to turn sardine cans into something even worse than they already are. So please keep an eye.
Thank you so much for that, Chuck. Appreciate that. We definitely will be vigilant.
The attention has been obviously on 6661, so let me focus on that. Everybody knows at this point that we had proposed weeks and months before the meeting that just happened, a series of questions and demand for documents. And that 3 minutes before the meeting, they suddenly supposedly materialized. The answers weren't answers. They were the same kind of stuff that some of you saw when I questioned Commissioner Drinkwater. They read from a script and they tell you what they want to do. But there's one lesson that I have learned from this, which I was not aware of before. And the Assemblyman touched upon it, but you all need to know it because this is truly a rogue agency that has no supervision and that is absolutely the most fertile field for corruption I've seen in over 50 years of being involved with one city agency or another. And some of it you've seen in these nepotism figures and the like. What happens is the following. Sam Smith, Charles Myrtler, decides he's going to form a not-for-profit, which is one of the reasons Margaret is generally right on the subject of not-for-profits. But I go out now and I form a not-for-profit. Easy. A couple of $100, maybe $1,000, lawyer puts it together, it's done. I then take myself and I walk over to your block and I see, there's a nice piece of land here. I go over and I sign an option agreement with the owner of the property. That's what happened, by the way, at 661. And I say, listen, I'm going to buy this property from you for 10 times its normal value, or 4 times, whatever the number we have to work out. If you will let me have for $1 or $1,000 an option good for 3 years to buy it for that number. And so we negotiate, we got it. I then take that contract and I walk over to the Department of Homeless Services and I say, here, I got this terrific piece of property. I know how to do this stuff. I did it at XYZ and I'm now independent and I show some credentials and I do need some credentials. And I say, I want to do this. And if I'm represented by the right Brooklyn law firm, the word goes out that this is okay. And it is predominantly representation by a couple of firms in Brooklyn, which I had checked on, okay? And so at that point, I get this contract before DHS and somebody looks at it. I have no idea who it is. And somebody investigates it and I have no idea it is. And the commissioner refused to identify what their qualifications are, let alone who they are. And they look at it and they say, you're qualified. Great piece of land. We're going to do this. And as Laura picked up and going through the documents together with her techie husband, they found out very quickly that the valuation placed upon this property that was contracted for was significantly in excess of what appears to be the market value up there. And you also have a very serious problem in terms of the quality and accuracy of the appraisals, but it's done. And now, for the first time after I've signed it up, there's a draft of a contract of which they have a standard form. I get designated that I am going to be the developer. And I'm designated by an open-ended RFP. That means I can do that under that RFP for the next 5 years, 4 years. Anybody comes in, I have authorization. And so I could say, as Commissioner Drinkwater said, oh, we have a protocol. That protocol is the RFP. So they did an RFP years ago, and they've kept that as an open blank check for the next guy they want to approve. And so, by the way, this is not an exaggeration at 1 iota. So they then approve me. Who approves me? I don't know. She won't tell me. I have no idea who investigated me. She won't tell me. But I'm approved now. So now I'm approved. After I am approved and ready to go, we put together some documents. And the worst thing in the world is to tell too many people too many facts. So what we do is we tell people there's going to be something, and we give them contracts that have blanks in all the important places. They don't have the attachments of the bids. They don't have the attachment of the assessments. And they have none of the important things. Dan Paternak was stunned when he looked at it. Laura and Rosemary was stunned when they looked at it. Everything was blank. And so what's the next step? The next step is you have a hearing before the Mayor's Committee, Contracting Committee. That's like having the hearing before me. All right, so the hearing comes, and now we're going to tell, just before the hearing, we've told the community. At that point, ladies and gentlemen, it's a done deal as far as they're concerned. And so where you have a problem here and where you have a solution has to be divided in two parts. And it's time to get real on it. The only hope we have that's really, in my view, real, is if somehow or other the controller and the city council put the brakes on this venture. Because understand, there is no check, no protocol, no nothing that says this was a good place or a bad place. Somebody came in with an option or a contract, and that was the end of it. Nobody bothered to say, I need it here. This place is over a mile from the nearest subway station. It's miles from St. Barnabas, which is the nearest hospital facility. And as a trustee, to the best of my knowledge, nobody's ever approached St. Barnabas in terms of arrangements for it. So you go on and on and on with this. That's the problem with the present, and we're going to continue to focus on it for the future. It is absolutely imperative that we put some constraints on the agency so that somebody is supervising it. We have a public advocate. I don't know what he's advocating, but he certainly isn't watching this. We have a city council that has a good member and a couple of other good members that have to realize you got a job, guys. You've got to put constraints on this agency. It's showing up all over town. And then perhaps most importantly of all, we've got to come to a realization, which was, thank goodness, one of the first resolutions we adopted, that we have a moral and a legal and an ethical obligation to provide shelter for people who are homeless, for whatever reason they're homeless. We need to make sure that the schizophrenic are not put one in a room of 6 of people who are not schizophrenic, and the same thing with a variety of other concerns. We've got to do that, but we got to think about what we're doing for the public good. This is not an agency that has functioned for the public good. It's an agency that's done some good, but has not achieved its potential by a damn sight. And my point in all of this is, A, we have an obligation to watch this specific development. B, I really genuinely believe we have an obligation as a community board to help to find places where they can do it, whether those places be in this community board district or elsewhere. I don't care. They are not, the fact they're homeless doesn't mean they're garbage. They're human beings and they have a right to be treated as such. But we've got to help do that. And the third thing that we've got to do is realize that you can't let people get away with these kind of things. Open-ended RFPs. You got to be aware that's what causes corruption. And I apologize for lecturing, but I've never seen anything which came out as clearly as it did here. And I'll answer questions on that. I don't believe we have any votes on for tonight. We will have a meeting in January. It will not be the 3rd. I think the first, we have to talk that out, but I think the first Monday I can have one is the 10th. If you want me to have it on a day other than Monday, that's fine with me. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chuck? Okay, so then we'll move along. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. Law, and Ethics, Marty.
Thank you. We met last night, and I just want to go over a few things very quickly. You all are aware that we got notification last month that we're supposed to be posting 24 hours in advance of a meeting if the resolution is coming up. I don't know what that means. It sounds simple, but when I contacted the Committee on Open Government and asked for an explanation, when it's not possible, like if I had a resolution tonight, how could I possibly have gotten it 24 hours in advance when it didn't come up until last night? So they used the phrase, I love it, as much as is applicable. If it's applicable, then then it could be publicized. And if not, then you could still have a resolution come from the floor here, as we've done, or you still, obviously, if you want to have a resolution which represents community input, then you have to have community input before you have a resolution. So I would just suggest that in terms of any committee meeting that's coming up in which you are planning to discuss something which might end up with a resolution, that needs to be in your posted notice of meeting and agenda, so that the community we have advance notice that this issue is being raised, even though you don't have a resolution yet. I am so confused about the concept of the sunshine date. I had the impression, I misinformed you last month, that since the legislature and the governor signed off on amendments to the open meetings law, then there was no sunshine date. But if you go online, if you read the latest amendation of the open meetings law, it says the law itself sunshines on January 15th, 2022. So I don't know what that means in terms of the future of OML. I can't believe they'll let it die. On the other hand, I note on Thursday, the Committee on Open Government is having a statewide conference, video conference on open meetings law. I plan to attend virtually, and hopefully I'll have some answers to that question, certainly before January 15th. One of my concerns and interests has been, since I was sick during the early phase of the pandemic, I was concerned that I could, after being hospitalized and being bedridden for a while, I could not have attended any meetings of the community board. Thanks to Zoom, I didn't miss any of those meetings. It seems to be bothering the Riverdale Press. I don't know why. Their editor likes to look at tapes the following day, so he doesn't attend. So I don't know what he's worried about. At least the tapes are helpful. There will be, we heard Dio tonight announce that she's resigning. I don't know when the effective date is. It's not critical at this second, but the committee has come up with some language. And since I didn't want to bring it up tonight until the executive committee has seen it first, but we will have language for the methodology for filling vacancies, midterm vacancies. We know how to fill them. The question that arose is what happens if I tell Laura tonight I want to be the new, which I do not, the new treasurer.
I was going to say you're on.
And she announces to the community board that Marty's already put his bid in. This may tell other people, why bother applying? He's going to get it. Again, I do not want it. But so this could tend to chill. We want to make sure that doesn't happen. So we're putting in a new wording, which the board will have to vote on next month as to what the procedure will be for the announcement and the filling of those vacancies without chilling. I mentioned last month, I perhaps shouldn't have upon double checking. There is no contradiction with respect to what a quorum is with respect to committees. A quorum consists only to establish a quorum, you must have at least one more than half of the appointed members to a committee. The community members on the committee do not count toward the quorum. They count toward votes, but not toward the quorum. We discussed the question of how the process in setting up special committees, and that comes through resolution. And in many cases, the resolution may, I use the word may here, the bylaws say may, identify who the people are who will be on the special committee. And it may also designate who the chair will be, but the person who makes the motion does not own it. The persons who vote on it, which is the board, own it. So once the resolution is passed, that's the rules defining what that special committee is. So in the future, should somebody else wish to be on the committee, one needs to have an amendment to the resolution to add or delete. Now that has happened several times over the last couple of years where we haven't done it this way, but henceforth we will do it this way. So if there's any changes on a special committee, additions or subtractions, there needs to be a resolution, which I believe one will be coming up later tonight. We also, the last thing is, after reading OML, we use the word insist, but it's strongly advised that the board and the committees have standardized rules so that members of the public, when coming to a committee meeting, will know exactly if and when they can speak, under what conditions. We discussed last night a number of possible areas where rules might be identified. We do not intend, we'll come back with a suggestion, but there's one size does not have to fit all. We'll define recommendations for what rules might be, and then each committee will adopt its own rules, but one must inform the public at the beginning of the meeting what those rules are. If they can speak, when they can speak, how long the meeting will last, if there are a defined number of speakers who are allowed. All these questions we will raise and bring back to the board for consideration, and then for individual committees to adapt and adopt what they want. That's my report.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you. And by the way, the board sent a letter to the governor and our elected officials advocating to continue the waiver to permit us to Zoom the waiver to the open meetings law. And we sent that, and I have spoken to our elected officials as well. Okay, Ramdot can't be with us tonight for Parks and Recreation. So Bob, did he send anything to you, Bob Bender?
No, he didn't send anything. I can say the committee did not meet in November because it was the night before Thanksgiving. And as Bob Fanuzzi mentioned, the committee is meeting tomorrow night in a joint committee meeting with Environment and Sanitation regarding the daylighting of Tibbetts Brook and the property Putnam South, just south of Van Cortlandt Park.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Public safety, Ed.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so we had public safety had 2 resolutions. One was a renewal application for the barbecue pit located at 5788 Marshallou Avenue. And the other was a new application for a full liquor license for Izili Luxury Hall Corp., which is going to be located at 5540 Broadway. And the new application they signed, well, I'll just briefly summarize the resolution. So the for the renewal was for barbecue pit was for wine, beer, and cider. The 50th were unaware of any prior notable disturbances, complaints about the establishment. Public Safety Committee unanimously approved the application. And for the new application for Izili, they did sign a 2 a.m. agreement, agreeing to close the business by 2 a.m. Every day for their first year of operation. And the 50th is unaware of any notable disturbances in that particular area where they're going to set up. So the Public Safety Committee also approved that application unanimously. So Madam Chair, I would make the suggestion that could we vote on these together as a unit?
Sure. Any questions for Ed? Any discussion? Okay, so if anyone is opposed to these liquor licenses, please raise your hand. I don't see any hands. Is anyone abstaining? Okay, then they are unanimously approved. All right, thank you. Thank you, Ed.
Okay, so I got a couple more things. Just on the heels of that, I just received this today, as a matter of fact, that one of our SLA applications got a notification from the Liquor License Authority that the 500-foot rule has been suspended for a while due to a lot of the COVID restrictions that we have going on. So it appears as of today, I haven't seen any other previous notifications about that, but it's back on again. So this particular business, Tobala, Casa Tobala Corp. On 3732 Riverdale Avenue is being asked to basically, well, they're going to resume the hearing. So now they have to prove that one of the, I guess, stipulations of the 500-foot rule is that they have to prove that their license is in the public interest, being that there are more than 3 establishments within the 500-foot area. So there's going to be there's conditions, and again, I'm just getting this today, so I have to look into this a little bit further. But now that the restrictions have been lifted with as it applies to the 500-foot hearings, there's going to be conditions upon, a various list of conditions upon them getting their application. So, more will be revealed on that. As far as our last meeting is concerned, we had, it's getting to be heating season again. So, fires go up a lot. And we've had some fires in the area, some very serious fires. So we had Captain Paul Colabella of the FDNY gave a fire presentation that I thought was terrific. It was really informative. And, just you know, make sure everybody has upgraded smoke detectors, because, you know, the statistics are, you know, 60% more people are more likely to die without a working smoke detector. So, and the FDNY also has thousands, according to them, of smoke detectors ready to be installed and provided for free. So, you know, I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. And I think that's important, especially given the statistics of, you know, how many fatalities occur due to not having smoke detectors, working smoke detectors in their residence. So our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, the 21st at 7 p.m. And I also wanted to thank Dio for her service, and hopefully she'll come back to public safety, but I'll leave that alone. But thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Ed. Next on the agenda is TNT. Deb, you're on.
Hi there, good evening. We have two resolutions. Carrie, you're going to put them up?
Yes, I'm pulling them up now.
Okay. While she's pulling them up, I will say that I refer everyone to our minutes for the discussion of the last TNT meeting. Our next TNT meeting is this Thursday, on December 16th, and we'll be discussing the Palisade Capoc intersection. The DOT will be coming to answer questions and address community concerns. We also will be discussing two Sedgwick Avenue safety improvements that have been on the agenda for a couple of months. We'll be reviewing those resolutions and we'll continue on our work regarding Bailey Avenue and safety improvements there. So the first one, our first resolution for tonight is regarding Independence Avenue flexible delineators. I think that the whereases give enough history and context, so I'll just jump right into it. Whereas in the fall of 2020 and early winter of 2021, the Traffic and Transportation Committee of Community Board 8 held several public discussions on ways to reduce drag racing on Independence Avenue. Whereas the majority of the community expressed strong opposition to general common traffic calming measures on Independence Avenue, such as lane narrowing, pedestrian extensions, bike lanes, additional traffic lights, and the completion of sidewalks. Whereas during the March 2020 Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting, committee members and the general public discussed the placement of flexible delineators and channelization at each impacted intersection to identify locations that would best reduce the intersection size while also addressing concerns with parking, pedestrian crossings, bus stops, and garbage pickup. Whereas in April of 2021, Community Board 8 passed a resolution to recommend New York City DOT install flexible delineators and rubber speed bumps on Independence Avenue at the intersections of West 235th Street, West 236th Street, West 237th Street, West 239th Street, and West 240th Street to reduce reckless donuts by vehicles. Whereas the Bronx DOT office has informed the Traffic and Transportation Committee that specific treatments cannot be requested and that the agency does not have a policy of reducing intersection radius to restrict illegal vehicular activity like donuts. Whereas the April 2021 resolution is not actionable by the New York City Department of Transportation as it is currently written. Therefore, I think that you're missing, Kara, you're missing a version of this, because there should be a whereas that says this resolution supersedes and replaces the April 2021 resolution.
Okay, I'm sorry.
This is not the right.
Right. I'm looking at it in hard copy.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too. This is
yes.
Okay. I'm sorry about this.
I can read it. It says, whereas 311 reports on Independence Avenue and adjacent side streets have dramatically been reduced from 54 complaints between January 2020 and March 2021 to 8 from April to October of 2021, with the reinstallation of speed bumps, street lines, and increased enforcement. Whereas the April 2021 resolution has not been acted on by the New York City Department of Transportation, And whereas this resolution supersedes and replaces the April 2021 resolution from Community Board 8 to the New York City Department of Transportation, therefore be it resolved that the Bronx Community Board 8 requests that the New York City Department of Transportation make no changes to Independence Avenue to address drag racing without coming back to the Traffic and Transportation Committee. Yeah, that's just a different version you got, Kira.
Kira, you
all right, I'm reviewing it now. What I sent over, I apologize.
And I think
I know I have it, Deb.
Do you want to stop sharing the one that you're sharing? That's
I would take this one off.
Yeah,
I'm looking for the updated one to make sure.
Okay. Are there any general questions while we're waiting? I'm happy to answer anything.
Deb, what do you have down as the for and against on your paper copy? Because I think that was incorrect.
I'm gonna make you co-host since you have it on your screen. If you don't mind just sharing it, that would be easier. I'm trying to go through my files now.
Probably more expeditious.
So David, were you opposed? No, because I've got opposed.
I think Kelly was too.
For the flexible delineators one, the resolution replacement?
Well, the concept of withdrawing the resolution, I believe so.
We had the wrong. This is definitely a different resolution than what was shown at exec. Radically different.
Hold on.
Okay.
Yes.
Has anything been done about the audible sounds, the audible boxes in the intersection by Marshallou?
I don't know what you're referring to.
We're talking about something for like the visually impaired, that there will be, like they have in White Plains, the audible boxes at the intersections, so you can hear when the light's changing.
Oh, Kira, I believe you have an outstanding request with DOT on this, with your district service cabinet meeting.
I do.
Running for a while.
It's been ongoing for about a year and a half now.
I'm going to keep pushing.
I can get back to you, Rita. Everything was kind of delayed. I'll get a better response from them.
Thank you.
Can I just interrupt for a second? They have been installed on Marshallou. The audible sounds at the intersections. They have been installed in recent weeks.
Oh,
I walk up there every day. Yes.
Oh, great.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
Bob, was it on all the intersections on Marshallou?
No, not all the intersections. The ones that have crosswalks, Fieldston, it's up now. I think they're putting it in, or they may have just put it in. Yes, they did, on 256th Street and Marshallou.
Right, and 259th Street, I see, has it. And Riverdale Avenue.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you.
Our voices were heard.
Yes.
Very impressed. I know it's been a long time advocating for that. And not only in our budget, but I know Kira's brought it up many, many, many times. Excellent.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up, Rita.
You're welcome.
So okay, Kira, did you want me
to put up?
Yeah, Deb, if you don't mind, I'm searching and I have different versions of everything. I don't want to screw it up again. So that would be
this is the version that I've got.
That's what I have.
Okay. So whereas
that's what we were sent. We were sent this updated version. Yes.
So whereas in the fall of 2020 and early winter of 2021, the Traffic and Transportation Committee of Community Board 8 held several public discussions on ways to reduce drag racing on Independence Avenue, whereas the majority of the community expressed strong opposition to general common traffic calming measures on Independence Avenue, such as lane narrowing, pedestrian extensions, bike lanes, additional traffic lights, and the completion of sidewalks. Whereas during the March 2020 Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting, committee members and the general public discussed the placement of flexible delineators and channelization at each impacted intersection to identify locations that would best reduce the intersection size, while also addressing concerns with parking, pedestrian crossings, bus stops, and garbage pickup. Whereas in April 2021, Community Board 8 passed a resolution to recommend New York City DOT install flexible delineators and rubber speed bumps on Independence Avenue at the intersections of West 235th Street. West 236th Street, West 237th Street, West 239th Street, and West 240th Street to reduce reckless donuts by vehicles. Whereas the Bronx DOT office has informed the Traffic and Transportation Committee that specific requested treatments cannot be guaranteed, and that the agency does not have specific treatments to reduce intersection radius to address illegal vehicular activity like donuts. Whereas 311 reports on Independence Avenue and adjacent side streets have dramatically been reduced from 54 complaints between January 2020 and March 2021 to 8 from April to October of 2021, with the installation of speed bumps, street lines, and increased enforcement. And whereas the April 2021 resolution has not been acted on by the New York City Department of Transportation, and whereas this resolution supersedes and replaces the April 2021 resolution from Community Board 8 to the New York City Department of Transportation, therefore be it resolved that the Bronx Community Board 8 requests the New York City Department of Transportation make no changes to Independence Avenue to address drag racing without coming back to the Traffic and Transportation Committee. So I'll stop share there.
May I make a friendly amendment of just one word?
Sure.
Without first coming back.
Without, oh yeah, without first, yeah. All right? I accept that a friendly amendment.
Okay, is there any, we have this resolution in front of us. Is there any more discussion?
Rosemary's hand is up.
Yeah, I've had my hand up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand this, and I think I do. This is not the resolution that was passed by the TNT committee.
This resolution went into exec where there was a really good debate about repeal versus replace.
Right. Okay. So this is not. And number two, somebody just indicated that this was sent out to people. This resolution was not sent out to people. Am I correct?
No, this is the resolution that was sent out in advance of the board meeting. Or it should have been. This was the one I submitted for the board meeting.
Okay, I am not aware of that. Okay, I don't have, I would like, maybe Kira could send me another copy because I've been waiting for this. I've been looking for it to come and I don't have it. So, and I know there have been problems with the system in the community board office. So some things that get sent don't get delivered, and this was not delivered to me.
Sorry.
Okay, so having said that, I'll state again, I'm exhausted saying it so many times. I think rescinding a resolution is a mistake. This board and the committee voted for this. The concept that DOT cannot guarantee that what was passed will be done, they guarantee nothing. So there's nothing new in that concept or that statement. I still do not see the reason to rescind. And I just add that on the agenda, the TNT agenda, listing this item for discussion at the committee to rescind, at the end says the committee will be accepting proposals for Independence Avenue intersections that should be studied for pedestrian safety to be discussed at a future meeting. This has the feeling of clearing the decks for something else to be coming in. And until there is something else, I think it's a mistake to rescind what is there. This is clearly actionable by TNT. They can say, we don't do this kind of thing. So thank you for your resolution, but we don't do it. It's the rescinding of this that troubles me, continues to trouble me. I will clearly vote against this. It's the wrong way to go. Thank you.
Rosemary, I do want to point out, I mean, I hear you that part of the debate about rescind versus replacement was what we had in exec, which is why this is a replacement instead of the rescinding.
Okay, I see.
And excuse me, no, I'll say again, with the statement in the TNT agenda, the committee will be accepting proposals. That's the one I'm waiting for. It's clearing the decks for the something else to be coming that should be the replacing this full resolution that was approved by the board. Okay.
Camelia.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to point out from a procedure point of view, I mean, first, I really appreciate them putting this forward because it shows a degree of sort of self-reflection of a committee that is not often seen. So I think it's something to be appreciated. But in terms of procedure, I mean, I'm sure that you heard from Martin, even board members did not receive this, and we had all this confusion because we are live on camera and it was not the proper version, etc. I mean, the new law clearly asks us to post 24 hours in advance all resolutions on the website for the community to be aware. It would be just so useful to start having this system in place. 24 hours before, we all look at the website, see what's there. We get reminded what the conversation was. Changes, no changes. All chairs should have this in mind. So I'm strongly making a plea for all committee chairs, especially in the context of these kind of stuffy resolutions, to make the effort and start complying with the law. It's for the public and it's for us and it's for everybody to simply have everything ready and post it 24 hours before a meeting. Thanks so much, Deb. I will be voting in favor of your proposal, and thank you so much for taking this approach.
Dan.
Hi, Laura. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do not agree with rescission here, or even the language that's changed, for a few reasons. First, as Camille just said, this resolution was not sent. I did not receive it either. I don't know why this did not go out to the board, but this resolution should have went out to the board beforehand. I don't know why it didn't. I don't know.
I apologize if it didn't go out. I'm going through the office records now. It should have went out. I thought it went out. I'm working now to figure out where the miscommunication was on that.
Second, we heard earlier.
I got it. I don't understand because I printed it out from what was sent. I printed it out. So I have the correct one.
I did not receive it.
Okay. No, I'm sure. I don't understand.
Camelia did not receive it. Rosemary did not receive it.
I did not
receive it either.
So
it would have went out. What we're doing now in the office is sending out a package of all resolutions that are going on the website in advance of the meeting. And we sent it out last week. But again, I don't know if the incorrect version went out or the updated version.
No version went out. I didn't get any group of resolutions.
We'll look for that package of resolutions with the new agenda that I know for a fact went out.
Yeah, I don't.
I'll get a date off of the office.
Yeah. So anyway, no resolution went out as far as, or several people have not seen this resolution. Number two, with regards to the meeting itself, I don't think the community was really reached out to. You know, last year we made it a point to reach out to certain individuals like Mr. Merdler, Jeff Merdler, you know, to make folks aware that, you know, we're bringing that topic back up. When asked if Jeff Merdler was reached out, the answer was no. We just sent out various letters. As we heard from the individual earlier today, they did not know about this meeting. There was a big community discussion. This matter, if it is going to be changed, if there's going to be a difference from what we did come to an agreement with the community last year, it should go back to committee. Those individuals should have a right to speak on the topic and present any arguments to or against. Third, DOT has a turn calming program. That's basically what this is. We're using bumpers the same way they have in their turn calming program to prevent reckless driving. So I find it a little disingenuous for DOT to come back and say to us they can't implement anything that we asked them. And by the way, we didn't ask them to implement. I'll get to that in a moment, because they don't have a program for it. It just complete hogwash. And I don't, quite frankly, believe it. Last, what our resolution did last year, and I'm going to end with the be it further resolved, because it's essentially the same thing you guys are saying right now, which is this. Our last further be it resolved that T&T committee requests that the NYC DOT report its findings to the committee and not implement any of the changes herein until such time as the committee and community, more important, can weigh in on a final design and recommendation by DOT. So what did we ask them to do? We gave a series of possible traffic changes to DOT, and we asked them, be it resolved that. We request DOT investigate the feasibility, whether or not they could actually do it. And we wanted their advice on the following changes. Is it possible to do this DOT? And do you recommend doing this or not? That's what we asked DOT to do. And then at the very end, we said, don't do anything until you come back here and speak to the community. And now tonight, for whatever reason, and it started as a rescission, quite frankly, I believe because DOT didn't want to deal with the issue. And now after exec conversation, as a superseding to say the same exact thing we did in April at the very end. So what do I think should happen? I think this should be sent back to the committee. We should tell everybody in that community that DOT wants us to rescind the resolution and have another conversation. And I don't think we should be voting this through tonight. And I'll end it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Hands, let's see, Chuck.
You know, I am very troubled by the fact that there are a number of people, I thought I was alone, who didn't get a copy of this resolution. I don't know how you can vote on it. I don't know why how you don't have to table it. You got to give people notice. You got a fair number. It's not just one or two.
This is really a disaster. Pablo was, when he sent this out, he has the TNT committee. I'll speak with him tomorrow. I don't know how I have it in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. We can table it and then we can just bring it up again in the January meeting. I'm fine with that. I mean, you know, if people want more time to think about it. I do want to answer just to the question of public notice that I did personally post 25 signs on Independence Avenue at every intersection, just to make sure that the public was aware of the discussion. I wanted to make sure that that was the whole point of bringing it back to the committee, to make the public more aware that we would be asking for studies of these intersections instead of specifically asking for flexible delineators. And that's really the meat of this whole discussion, is that I knew that Dan and I work on this very closely together. I know that we had asked the public to trust us that DOT would install the flexible delineators and not more than that, that the committee or the community had said that they were concerned about curb cuts in different places. They were concerned that there might be impacts to garbage pickup, to the way parking and traffic flow happened. And I heard them. And so once I had any inkling that DOT might expand and do more than the flexible delineators, I wanted to bring it back to the community. And the community, we did have members of the community show up at our committee meeting. We discussed it, and we had a vote. So that's the context here. But I'm totally fine to table it, and we can it can go out as resolution for the January meeting.
Well, what I'm saying is that it should go back to the committee's January meeting and let the community come out. We had hundreds of people at the traffic meeting when this was first up. You had what, maybe 20, 30 people at the last meeting? And right. The one group that actually got word out was not notified. And as far as DOT, it's my understanding that DOT has not put anything in writing regarding this topic as to what they would do or not do.
So Laura, I'm going to go back to the question of tabling this for the meeting in January here.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So you'll table it. And
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Laura? Does the traffic committee meeting precede the next board meeting?
You meet the third Thursday of the month.
We meet 2 days.
I'm sorry, you meet before or after?
We meet on Thursday this week.
Oh, well, it seems to me that what you can do is, well, I don't know, you can do it.
There's no notice.
But, you know, the idea is to get people to have the input rather than leave questions hanging out there. And the fact you have the people not even getting it just is going to make people very suspicious of what we're doing. That's what I'm trying to say.
This is really...
Well, yeah, I would just argue that by tabling it tonight, the only people who haven't gotten it are the board members. That I've submitted both resolutions in advance, and that they should have been sent. So
the only people who voted it are the board members.
Right. That's why we can table it until January.
But again, the community has not had an opportunity. And we heard from a speaker tonight saying they did not have an opportunity because they had no idea it was even going on. I mean, do we even
Dan,
care
we've already
about the
heard from
community
you. We've already heard from you enough. Dan, all right?
I'm serious. I mean, what are we
I'm
here
serious
for?
as well. You've interrupted every committee meeting this year. 4 meetings, you have added things to this agenda that the community does not want to hear. So please stop.
We heard from them earlier, they did.
We're going to table. It's very unfortunate because after all the discussion at executive committee, Deb made so many changes. So I'm very upset about this, and we will straighten this out tomorrow. How this happened, what happened, why it happened. We will straighten that out tomorrow.
Laura, I want to apologize again for the miscommunication or whatever happened in the office, but I also want to make note that buildings surrounding this area from our building list that we created last year were sent this agenda several times. So if there's an issue with people in the building not receiving the agendas, we have to speak with building management on that. But we have sent out to the buildings that we sent out to last year.
May I be rude and just make a suggestion, please, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
You have a question here that's generated a fair amount of controversy and a fair amount of activity. It seems to me that one of the best things that can be done here is A, lay it over, and B, call a special meeting before the board meeting so people really have a sense that they are participating in the process. That's what we've been doing up at Broadway. Let people feel they are participants.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I also be rude and
go ahead,
make a statement? The committee is meeting on Thursday night, Deb. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and notice can go out tomorrow to everybody.
My experience is that that notice 48 hours before a meeting would be deemed inadequate, and that would be moot. That we would not be able to provide the notice that would satisfy Dan.
Well, it's not a question of satisfying one particular board member. It's a question of sending out the committee's agenda to whoever receives the committee's agenda and making sure that this item is on the agenda for Thursday's meeting. I mean, that can be done, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's what I would recommend.
Deb.
Still hands up.
Moses has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if it's up from before. Bob,
no.
Moses.
Thank you. Just want to say not to speak on the merits of this resolution, because again, it seems like Deb has asked multiple times that we'll put it in January and we can discuss it and vote on it then. But I do want to say, just because of this back and forth, it's really bothering me a lot. I believe Deb is still the chair of TNT. I believe Deb has said many times that she posted it out for the public to attend. There was a meeting on this. Maybe not some folks that people want to showed up, but she ran her meeting. It seems kind of odd that we're kind of telling Deb how to run the meeting differently than how Deb ran the meeting. And so I feel like if Deb wants to put it up, they can do that. If not, it sounds like this has been discussed. And if we don't like it, we can vote against it. But I don't think it makes sense to tell them how the meeting should be run and how to repost something that Deb already did. And so I just felt pretty strongly about that. So I'm gonna make sure I shared that. So that's it.
Thank you, Moses.
Thank you.
Camelia, is your hand up from before?
No, it's for now.
Okay.
Just give me 30 seconds, Laura. Exactly what Moses said. Exactly. Why are we undermining the authority of a chair? And I was on the Traffic and Transportation Committee. There was significant public input. She graciously accepted to table the resolution for for January. The next meeting of TNT is on this week, Thursday. There's plenty of time again for the resolution to be posted as part of the agenda of the January meeting. What we are doing now is not allowing Deb a vote on this when we do this plenty of times for other chairs, for resolutions that get made up orally or written after they are even voted on. So I do, so 100% everything that Moses said, it feels like we are undermining the authority of a chair that already went through all the proper procedures to bring this to the table in full board. Thank you so much.
Rosemary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think there's been enough back and forth, maybe too much back and forth. Bring it to a vote, table it. I don't give a damn. Do something and let's stop this back and forth, okay? I know how I'm gonna vote. We all view issues different ways. I view this issue a different way than Camelia does or other people who are not maybe as deeply involved in the issue. That's okay. We can all have different opinions. But please make a decision, vote it or table it. Just please, let's end this issue now.
Ed?
Yeah, I just wanted to say briefly, just kind of also to echo what Camelia said and what Rosemary said, as far as I propose we take a vote on this because, okay, it seems like a lot of people did not get the notice for reasons unknown, but it is presented to us up on the screen. It was read to us. We all have an understanding of it. So I would propose we take a vote on this. That's it.
You know what? This was a unanimous vote by that TNT committee because my understanding was when DOT said, you're asking for delineators, but we may not give you that. We may give you something totally different. You can't ask for a solution. And everybody got cold feet because they thought of Palisade Kapok and they said, well, this is 5 intersection, you know, come back to us, we take it back. I thought the committee was clear. And basically, Deb, do you want to move the question? Do you want to take a vote?
Or do you want a table?
As the chair of the committee.
I mean, as the chair of the committee, I do really appreciate Moses and Camelia and folks coming forward and encouraging us to take the vote now. That I do believe in kind of transparency and giving people like time to process. And because it changed between the committee and exec to here, I think it would be fair to table it to January, as long as there's no real opposition to it, because I know it's also taken up a bunch of time at this meeting, but that because there's a lot of whereases, it's a slightly complicated issue, and that I'm comfortable doing the vote at the board regarding this so that people have a chance to absorb it. The only reason, Bob, that I resist bringing it back to the committee is that we have a pretty heavy agenda. We've got some things that we want to try to get past or like, you know, resolve, like the Sedgwick Avenue resolutions, and that there's been a lot of frustration from members of the community in particular who have been trying to get some of this work done, and the meetings have gone very long. And so our last meeting went until almost 10 o'clock. And so in order to really be mindful of the agenda as it's set right now, I just don't want to add anything new to the agenda for this week. However, you know, in order to allow people to actually take this in, think about the replacement piece of it, I'm comfortable with that. That's fine.
Okay, so let's move on.
We have a second resolution though.
Yes, right. I was saying, let's move on. We have a second resolution. It's very, very short.
It's very short.
This will be voted on in January. The correct one will be mailed out. And thank you. Okay.
So the second resolution, actually, it's good that we vote on this one tonight because this is a resolution that was actually passed in June when Dan was the chair and we had different folks on the committee. So you'll see that that Sylvia is one of the folks on the committee. This one more straightforward. Be it resolved that the Traffic and Transportation Committee of Bronx Community Board 8 requests that the New York City Department of Transportation change the parking regulation for the south side of Stevenson Place along the retaining wall for Fort Independence Park to a no standing zone to eliminate the parking of any vehicles. So that's the whole thing.
I did not
Is there any discussion?
I did not participate in that vote.
You're not in this vote, David? I wasn't in this vote.
I did not participate in that vote.
Okay.
All right, we can modify it. Were you a no? You didn't participate at all?
Not at all.
Okay. I was not in that. I was not in the meeting at that point either. So I will make adjustments. There you go.
Okay. Just remove from vote, David.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? Okay. Is there anyone? Then we'll take a vote. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? I don't see any hands. One hand, Sergio, Kelly. Okay. Sergio, Kelly, opposed. Are there any abstentions? Rosemary. Rosemary is abstained. And Ted. Okay. We got that? We got the vote? Okay.
Yes.
Very good. So that motion passes. Deb, is there anything else?
That is more than enough, I'm sure.
Yes, it is. Okay. Thank you. And again, we're livid about what happened. So just so you know that. Okay. Where's my agenda? Youth.
Julie can make it this evening. I'll refer everyone to the minutes. The next meeting is Monday. And happy holidays from you.
Very good.
I'm going to brush my teeth.
Okay. Ted, your hand is up. Is that from before?
Yes, sir. That was from before.
Okay. Okay. Next up is aging. Dan.
I'll be quick. Yesterday we had Jeanette Reed from the Department for the Aging come in and talk about a senior employment program. So for those 55 and older, DFTA has a program, and what they do is workforce training, and they'll do a stipend of $15 an hour from 15 to 20 hours per week, and help individuals receive employment. And it's a great program. I'm waiting for the flyer and brochure to come in. And once we get it, we're going to give it to the office and try to spread it around to our different centers. Our next meeting will be in January on the second Monday. And once again, thank you, Dio, for all of your service. It's a hard position, I know, and congratulations once more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Budget, David.
Yes, given the late hour, I would just say that on another Board of Governors of a very large nonprofit in which I served, when we had no news to present, we would just say progress. So progress.
Okay. Progress is good. Special Committee on Hudson River Greenway.
Well, I guess we could say we're making progress too. No report.
Okay. Thank you. Special Committee on Racial Equity. Kira, can you put that one up? We have an amendment there, a change.
Just a minute, Laura. Hang on, we'll get it from here.
Okay.
Stand by.
Okay, so this, following up with what was said at Law Rules and Ethics, we have a change in the membership. We have appointed 2 new members, Camelia Tepelis and Julia Gomez, and we just want to reflect that in the resolution that was passed in June, because we have, we have lost 2 members from that committee, and that, I don't know, is it going up? So you could see. As you know, SCREE is a special committee, and the members of it are named in the resolution. Okay, I could just read it. And so that clause would read, be it further resolved that the special committee shall be comprised of Bob Bender, Margaret Della, Chair, Bob Finuzzi.
There it is, Laura.
Okay, so go down to the second, be it resolved. No. Nothing else has changed. Okay. Keep going. One more. Oh no, that's it. No, that's fine. No, I don't know. That's it. That's it. Wait, I just saw it.
Sorry. I'll slow it down. Is it this
Okay,
one?
that's it. That's it. Just wait. The be it resolved that the special committee should be comprised of, we're just removing Jill Towns, Bob Bender, Margaret Della, Bob Finuzzi, Julie Reyes, Ramdat Singh, and we're adding Camelia Tepelis and Julia Gomez. And so we will now please take a vote. Congratulations to the new additions. And we need to, is there anyone who objects, who's opposed? Please raise your hand to the change on this special resolution, special committee.
Laura, is this the new resolution?
No, this is the same resolution. We're just changing the party. We're just changing the, adding the new members. That's what we're doing.
Is there a resolution? Okay, so you're making a resolution from the floor to do that?
I'm just adding to a resolution that already exists. This resolution already exists. And because we have 2 new members to scree, but the board has to vote on it. So that's
I will second the resolution if it's coming from the floor. Sergio.
Yeah,
the resolution should be to amend.
Yes, I started that.
By changing the names.
Yes, I think I said that. We're amending the resolution. We are adding the names.
So are we doing a motion then to amend the agenda, and then we amend the agenda, and then you're bringing forward this resolution? Was there a resolution?
We amend the agenda. Okay, we amend the agenda.
Because you're bringing this from the floor, right? That's what you're doing?
Yes.
I move to amend the agenda to add this.
Seconded.
Okay. It is before us. Is there any discussion?
Laura, we got to take the vote on it, right? On amending the agenda?
Wait a minute. I'm taking another sip. I'll never sleep tonight because I'm drinking so much damn coffee. It's unbelievable. I apologize. It is way past my bedtime. In fact, Shakespeare once said, brevity is the soul of wit. I'm going to adopt that. Okay. Are we voting? Is there any opposition? Is there any opposition to amending, adding this to our agenda? No. Is there anyone abstaining? Is there anyone awake? Okay, so it is deemed approved. All right.
Well, the agenda is amended, right?
The agenda is amended. It is on the agenda. It has been added.
Now I need to vote on the resolution to amend.
Okay, on the resolution, on the motion to amend.
Can I ask any a question? Discussion, thank you. May I speak?
Your hand's not up. Chuck, is your hand?
It was up.
I yield to Rosemary.
It was up earlier.
Rosemary?
Okay, so if I understand what you're saying, Jill's name comes off. Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And is there a chair for if there's a chair?
Yes, the committee voted Margaret Della as the chair. Yes.
Well, then I would
let's
just
put that on. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So it's going to read. The special committee shall be comprised of Margaret Della, chair, because they did that at their last meeting, Bob Bender, Bob Finuzzi, Julie Reyes, Ramdat Singh, Camelia Tepelis, and Julia Gomez. That is how it now reads. Any further discussion? Chuck, your hand was up.
I'd like to talk on substance. A question after this motion doesn't have to do with the motion.
Okay. So is there anyone opposed? Please raise your hand. Okay. Chuck, your hand is up from before?
No, it's up on a matter involving the committee, but not this resolution.
Okay. Is there anyone abstaining? So then it is deemed approved. Okay. Okay, so it is deemed approved. Thank you and congratulations to all. Okay. Now, Chuck, did you have something you want to speak on?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, yesterday, on behalf of the American Federation of Teachers, I filed a lawsuit in the federal court in New Hampshire to block and to prevent a series of actions by the legislature of the state of New Hampshire that bars teachers from teaching on areas of sex discrimination, race discrimination, gender and age discrimination. There are 11 states of the union that have taken these steps to limit the ability of teachers to teach subjects that need to be taught and to have discussion among kids so that they can learn. And my hope and my reason for raising this question, we're going to probably wind up with the same lawsuits in Florida and Texas before long. My reason for raising it is I would beg the committee to put near the top of its agenda what it can do to help the educational system, the teachers, the good teachers in our system, to have the power to get the resources to teach kids. Because there are states of this union which unfortunately are trying affirmatively to block that education. And that is going to hurt this country terribly. And I thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Last but not least, Special Committee on Veteran Services. Sergio.
Thank you. I will refer everyone to our minutes. And we'll put out Councilman Dinowitz as chair of the Veterans Committee gave a very detailed report. We thank him for that. And we are selecting our date in late January, early February. We invite all to come in, and we are establishing meetings to have a group take Memorial Grove to make sure that it is done. I don't feel it should be done by the community board directly, but we will always be supportive of it as long as the people who are here have anything to say about it. Thank you very much and good evening. Happy holidays to all.
Thank you, Sergio. Discussion of executive committee minutes of December 1st. Any
Excuse
discussion?
me, may I provide my chair report?
Oh my God. Margaret, my apologies. You do have a chair report. You had a marvelous meeting. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The committee met on December 2nd. In addition to myself, Julie Reyes is vice chair, and so we're looking forward to leading the remainder of the year on topical issues. We had a presentation from Cesar Ruiz, who is from Latino Justice, which is a national organization focusing on redistricting. And Cesar led us through a definition of redistricting, what it means for New York, what it means for resources, allocation, representation, et cetera, and also encouraged community members and community board members to submit their testimony to the redistricting, the Independent Redistricting Commission. The committee itself is also focused on looking at the census tracts and how that helps us look quantitatively at data within the community in terms of racial justice. The committee is also reviewing its initial report. We are also following up with standing committee chairs. We have a list of activities that go on within each respective standing committee. And so I'd like to make sure that all chairs have reviewed that list. Have you all received that list?
I thought you had asked for a new list. We all received
the list. The list was revised. It was sent to the office, I believe, November 7th. For it to be sent out to all chairs. I haven't seen it. I wasn't chair at the time. I have not seen it gone out. We have not received any feedback from chairs. So I would just encourage all of the chairs to review that list, make sure it's accurate, and make sure that we've captured all that your respective committees have been doing in terms of racial equity. Lastly, we'll be planning for a series of community presentations, but part of what we have hoped to do is make sure that there are racial equity issues on the agenda for every standing committee. So many of our committee members have been on existing committees, so they'll be following up. We'll also be following up at executive for those committees that have not yet addressed a racial equity issue in the last year. And just to be sure that we are able to tackle some of those issues. I believe the only two committees where we do not have a SCREED member is the hospitals committee, as well as the Law, Rules, and Ethics committee. So we will be following up with those committees in addition to those that have not taken up a racial equity issue on their agenda. The committee's meeting minutes will be forthcoming, and our next meeting will be the first Thursday in February. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we conclude with approval of the board minutes of November 9th. Everybody got the minutes. Any comments? I don't see any hands. And anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining on the minutes? Okay, so it's deemed unanimously approved. Is there any miscellaneous business?
Did we approve the executive minutes? Because we got preempted.
We had just had discussion on the, so we don't need to vote on that.
Okay.
Is there any miscellaneous? So let me say to everyone, have a wonderful, safe, healthy holiday, New Year's, and we'll be together next year. And thank you all for your patience for tonight and your contributions. Okay, everybody
Sleep
have a
well.
Thank you,
I'm sorry,
Laura.
what?
Sleep well.
Oh man. Well, I don't know. I had so much of this high test. I'm falling asleep during the meeting, but at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll be like, damn. Okay, everybody, have a great night.
Have a great night, and thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and everything.
Everybody.
Good night, all.